Hold on. Did everyone see on Twitter that clip of Miyazaki being presented AI animation and reacting to it? Did everyone see that? This is very important. Hold on. Okay, so they're like, we made a creepy 3D body move around via AI. And then Miyazaki launches into an anecdote. Now, thinking of my anecdote, I can't watch this AI stuff and find it interesting. Whoever creates this has no idea what pain is. I am utterly disgusted. If you really want to make creepy stuff, you can go ahead and just do it. I would never wish to incorporate this technology into my work at all. I strongly feel this is an insult to life itself. And the tech students are like, This is just our experiment. We don't mean to do anything by showing it to the world. Yeah, I understand. And then the guy next to Ghibli asks, so what is your goal? And the student says, essentially, yeah, we wanted to replace humans. We wanted to build a machine that can draw pictures the way humans do. Incredible. I feel like we're nearing to the end of times. Thank you, Miyazaki. He's always like this. Cameraman's goated. Yeah. Doesn't Miyazaki hate his son's movies? Miyazaki hates life. Life itself. The new AOC book is wild. She was aware of how bad the online left is. In Ryan Grimm's book, The Squad, AOC explains how she felt the left abandoned her and then tried to take credit for her political career and how toxic she feels the online left is. Oh, shit. We got the expose, the Ryan Grimm expose. You know, I saw this guy in DC. Huh. Her second term, as she faced increasingly vitriolic criticism from elements of the left, had been a low point for her, Ocasio-Cortez told me. That time really forced me to kind of sit with who my base was, she said, because for a while it did not feel like the left. Like I was left, but the left didn't really support me. It felt more like a relationship of convenience, and the moment I stopped being as useful, I'd be dumped. And you can't a movement build with your most fickle supporters. True! I asked what she meant and whether she had found a better base of supporters. I don't think it was a better base, but more figuring out who my base actually was, slash is, she said. Like, as much as I love them, I did not win my election because of DSA, or even JD, or any of those orgs. They all either abandoned, ignored, or fought with me, and then swooped in at the last moment when I busted my whole ass for a long time to become even remotely visible. Or viable, sorry. Because she had spent so much time being called a puppet, she seems to have written the hell... Okay, this is one of the reasons why, like, I can't get along with many people in the online left. It's because there's so much clout to be had from performatively distancing yourself from anything even remotely tied to like pragmatic activism and all the sacrifice and concessions that it requires, that they can never actually stick to anything, you know? Anything. Like, Bernie's being super cringe right now with the ceasefire stuff. I acknowledge that. However, like, there were a ton of people on the left who disavowed Bernie because he endorsed Biden. What are you doing? Like you genuinely will never, ever, ever be able to find any kind of like camaraderie in a political figure if these are the standards by which you hold them. Does it not like signal to anyone a little bit of weirdness or a little bit of, I don't know, strategic incompetence that there are neo-Nazis in the United States who can go, yeah, okay, so these Republican neocons aren't exactly fully on our side, but we can still weaponize their movement and use them to our ends. Meanwhile, you have people like Bernie Sanders who are in office as senators, long-time senators, and there are lefties in this country who are like, nope, can't work with him, nope, he endorsed Biden. Like, it's just there is so much clout, and I swear to God, this is all like psyop shit. This is all like the federal agents in our community. They have smeared on all door handles the chemical that makes leftists virtue signal by gatekeeping political association behind like ideological purity. I think people forget AOC beat an establishment Dem in New York 14-2. Yeah, not only will we never know, like, all the pressures they're subjected to, because they're literally, politicians. They know stuff that we don't know, obviously. But also, like, they're the best we have, and that's all you'll ever get. You're never going to get any kind of leadership that isn't the best we have. You're lucky to get the best we have. That's all you can ever get. That's the best it gets. That's why it's called the best we have. So if we have the best we have, if you're going after, like, the 10 Justice Dems or whatever, as opposed to everyone else, like, you can be disappointed, but the people who are pretending that, like, go campaign for whoever you want. You're never going to find a politician who's going to hold up to all the standards the online left sets for them. Online leftists unironically have made her more liberal. She is finding more of a base in libs. Yep. Because the online left, because it's fucking retarded, because it's filled with children, emotional children who don't know anything, think, oh yeah, by demonstrating that we're impossible to please and incredibly fickle, we'll actually make politicians lean more on us. For some reason. Because that's how that works, Instead, the only reliable base of support that you can actually, like, trust is liberals, because liberals actually have consistent allegiance to politicians in terms of, like, support. Like, they're actually capable of reliably forming a base, which is something you need to do to build power. There's no way around it. So there's an incentive to go for them instead. Because she had spent so much time being called a puppet, she seems to have written the help she'd gotten out of the story. They all had important contributions, but to be honest, they were pretty much nowhere until the month before the primary. Really, it was Alejandro Rojas at JD that arguably helped the most. But we had built everything from scratch and did the hardest parts, and then, when it looked appealing enough, they jumped in. Yet Brave New Congress and its lighter offshoot, Justice Democrats, had been there since the beginning. Ryan Grimm is criticizing her for saying this. Had helped her set up the operation, sticking with the campaign from summer 2017 to March the next year. And when Justice Dems made the decision, following Shahid's argument, to cut off all other candidates and focus on Ocasio-Cortez, it came at a cost. Staff were laid off to focus resource on her. The organization's email and donor list were used exclusively to find recruits and raise money for her. Chakrabarti moved to New York in January to volunteer full-time as campaign manager. Trenton Rojas, and they joined him. In her mind, the contributions of Justice Democrats, which were real and pivotal, were blending with those of DSA, which were late but useful, and mingling in a toxic stew with the hostility that was getting for the broader online left. Yeah, the Justice Democrats were definitely helpful to AOC. I don't really know much specifically about what the DSA did, but the Justice Dems definitely did a lot there. There's a certain faction of the left that thinks they own or are responsible for electing a candidate just because the candidate happens to be ideologically left on their own. But in the actual work of getting elected, like, it's just these armchair people who talk shit but don't do shit, and listening to people who don't do shit is how you lose whatever you've built. She thought back to her first campaign for Congress when she was scrambling for endorsements. Every endorsement vote was basically all the white guys voting no and women and people of color voting yes, and places where we had the numbers we won and the places we didn't get it got slow-walked or denied. I didn't even get endorsed by the Queens REV chapter, which is why there's no longer one, but I did get support from the Bronx one. I think I had to reflect on the fact that that's what the actual experience was, and there are aspects of that relationship with the, let's call it the more dogmatic left, even when I was a nobody, that still persists now. I take it less personally now. It used to really hurt, she said. But ultimately, the people that were the harshest were never the ones that signed up for canvassing shifts or knocked any real amount of doors or really had convos with people, because the ones that did got it. True! That is true. The overlap between this particular brand of, like, extremely toxic, gatekeeping, purity testing leftist and people who actually make any difference in the world is, like, zero. There's no overlap. The people who do that online are the most worthless, like, fucking non-contributors to the political process imaginable. The most they can do is detract from it by forming podcasts and trying to pull other people away from pragmatic action. That's the most they can do. A net negative on life itself. Watching the members of the squad come in for harsh criticism for things Bernie Sanders was also doing was demoralizing. I was most depressed at the time by the misogyny I saw within the left and how differently we were treated. One-time Sanders supporters had hoped when the political revolution came to Congress, guillotines, or at least metaphorical ones, would accompany it. Because they're LARPers, right? Those folks hadn't paid close attention to the career of Sanders to that point, who had lived and legislated his values, but who also... Oh, it cuts off there. Yeah, Bernie Sanders made a fuck ton of compromises the entire time that he's been in office, and he's still been, like, the most effective left-leaning politician. I don't know, since FDR? Last in the book, it gets wild. Pelosi apparently mocked AOC for being younger. Yeah, of course she did. Pelosi is like the representative of the like neo-lib octogenarian Democrat establishment bulwark that you know, arrogantly assumes the country hasn't changed since the Clinton years. Of course, yeah, of course, a fucking crypt keeper like her would be like, oh well, you're young, like an actual argument, you know. So are the libs much better? In terms of like political viability for gaining power in the legislative process? Yeah, 100%. Yes, libs are, it's not that libs are better, it's that the left doesn't do anything and libs do everything. So it's like saying better implies there's a real comparison to be had. The left is allergic to pragmatic, effective behavior. Dude, I literally saw a tweet just the other day with like 50K likes that was like, the ceasefire now crowd is failing the same lesson that the defund the police crowd failed. And I thought like, oh, okay, are we going to say we need like to lower our standards? Because I don't think like ceasefire now is that bad of a goal to argue for. And then it continued, we need to stop kowtowing to the establishment and bending over backwards. We need to stop watering down the message. The real message should be destroy Israel now. 50K likes or something. Like yeah, go out there and protest, destroy Israel, or like end Israel or whatever. You see, yeah, incredibly effective political messaging that's going to get you far. 50K likes, most of which I assume are from teenagers and people who couldn't order a pizza over the phone to save their life. So I don't know. I do hate it here, you know. I do hate it here. Why the fuck do I keep... My iPhone keeps telling me that it recharged my phone in an environmentally friendly way, like it used clean energy. What the fuck are you talking about? How desperate are you? Jesus. Are we going to talk about the Zan Keffels thing, or are we going to let that one cool off? I don't know anything about it, and I don't even care to look into it right now. I mean, we'll see. Have you considered moving to Denmark or Norway? No. Why not? Because I'm a fucking American, you Euro degenerate. What the fuck are you talking about? Why would I trade living in the most powerful country in human history to go live in a gigantic fucking snowball with a hut built on? What are you talking about? Do you have any idea how you people sound? Hello, I am Swedish Vosh. I took a shower this morning by heating a big wooden bucket of water over some stones that I heated with a natural gas pipeline that was cut off. Nothing. Think of all the nice coats you could wear. To what function? You fuckers don't socialize. Have you seen your bus stops? No, fuck you. America, best country. Counterpoint free healthcare? Irrelevant. I am both wealthy and in perfect health. For now? Nah, I'm pretty sure I'll be in perfect health forever. Hey, Pigeon. Yeah, probably Blue Shift Star. It's pretty disappointing, yeah. I mean, I think that in terms of, like, trying to get good people elected or trying to stop bad people from getting elected, the only people that are really worth your time are liberals. You can move, like, the left, the young left vote, and I'm not saying leftists don't vote at all or don't participate at all, but they need to get dragged along by the actual power group, and that's liberals. When it comes to like ideological activism, the left is a little bit more useful. But when it comes to anything even remotely tied to pragmatic, action. Pigeon. Ruben has goopy eye disease, which is fine, not exactly a big deal. But we've given him a little goopy medicine to put in his eyes to help. And because Vermin's off, I had to bundle him in a blanket to like this morning, and I had to like burrito him to get him to be still while I gave him the goopy eyeball medicine, and he was mad. But then I let him go, and he was fine. As someone who's an organizer in the DSA, I've honestly been debating whether or not to jump ship, as it seems to be going the way of the SDS. Yeah, Soaked on Left has made the argument that like if enough Valshites join the DSA, it can be shifted over. But I genuinely wonder whether or not it's worth the effort, or if it'd be better to just let the DSA float off into irrelevance and wait and just like purely work with liberals, because the DSA are worse than liberal. Like most leftist groups are worse than liberals ideologically. Because on the stuff that actually like on which there are fulcrum issues in the United States, most of them orient around like progressive issues or basic economic liberal, like, welfare shit. And liberals tend to be on the same side as the left on that. The only difference is that the left is less effective. Like, what answers are you going to get out of a DSA conference in terms of what's politically viable that you wouldn't get by talking to your average, like, Midwestern Democrat, In most cases, not much. The DSA can offer you maybe more in terms of, like, analysis or theory or whatever, but what does that mean when it comes to like actually going out there and doing or changing anything? In a lot of cases, nothing. And they're bad at protesting too, because their messaging is awful. No discipline or control. A lot of them are it's just worthless org. I know it varies from place to place. Not all DSA orgs are the same, so it's going to like, I'm painting with a broad brush here, but like Jesus Christ, yeah, you got to trust liberals for this stuff. I mean, it sucks that you have to, but like, blame lefties. Based on your debate, this is exactly what the Deep Fat Fried podcast wants for their political movements. They're like a perfect example of the rot that I'm describing. DSA is losing members year over year. It needs a shakeup. Well, if maybe the org should just die then. Do you have any idea how weird it is for me to advocate for the DSA in any capacity where multiple people have emailed me saying that asking whether or not a entrant to the DSA is a fan of me is a question? Like, that they ask you when you're entering? Like, do you know how weird that feels? Like, what state must the DSA be in at any level? Also, I don't know if I can even advocate for the DSA, on the basis that it's decentralized. I think that decentralized political organizations are a horrible fucking idea. They don't ever work. They literally never work. Like, the only time you guys ever see any messaging from the DSA is when one of their smaller chapters goes fucking AWOL and starts saying insane shit that gets, like, reboosted on Twitter, If you want a big, like, tent political org, that it can't be, like, a million small tents. It has to be one big tent. But it's not. It's a million small tents. It's incredibly dumb. Wait, is PV not decentralized? PV isn't an advocacy org. It does canvassing and phone banking work, which is a lot more directed. For the most part, PV just directs people and it works with like existing campaigns, so different goals. Also, PV isn't like decentralized the way the DSA is. There's not like 50 PV chapters that all have total autonomy and messaging. What org should people join that's not the DSA? I don't fucking know. Vosh, my intro to the DSA was a meeting concerning where we'd hold a community viewing of a communist documentary. Never went to another meeting again, Lamau. It's so fucking embarrassing, dude. It's genuinely, it's so embarrassing. I've heard the SRA can be okay. The SRA isn't the same type of organization. It's all LARP, yeah. Why do you think the DSA is like this? Because the CIA smeared a chemical on every door handle in America that makes leftists politically ineffective. Very unfortunate. Crazy how effective leftists are in like every other country. Like the United States had to go to multiple wars to try to stop the spread of communism, to like coup democratically elected socialists. Every other country, socialists actually get to be effective, but not here. No. The UK? Well, not in Europe either. Okay, not in the West then. Vosh, what do you suggest? What I said, work with liberals. To be fair, I think it's a wealth thing. Um, I think there are a few issues. Poor lefties also suck at this. Well, it's not just a wealth thing. I don't know. It's like it's the community. It's social class. It's I don't know. It's the ghost of the USSR dragging us down. Whatever. The IWW is fine, Advark, because it's oriented towards a specific goal. What does the DSA even do? Like, real question. What does the DSA do? What is the goal of the DSA? Is it advocacy? Is it protesting? What do they do? Organizing? What does that mean? Organizing what? To what end? What does that mean? They basically do a bit of everything. Okay, so they do nothing and serves as a de facto party. They're not a party though. They help unionize places all the time. I don't think the DSA helps unionize workplaces. To what end? Like, the IWW has people whose job it is to do that. Like, there might be people in the DSA who do that, but what does the DSA do? Like, what does the organization do? You can't answer. And the reason for that is because it's decentralized. There is no DSA. The DSA doesn't exist. There's just a bunch of DSA chapters. They just share the name. There's no overarching, there's nothing else. There's nothing that unifies any of that base or power. It's worthless. They do a lot of good labor and electoral work. There are people in the DSA who do labor and electoral work, but the DSA in and of itself doesn't that just means it contains people who do that work. What I'm saying here is that the DSA as an organization doesn't facilitate any forward progress, you know? And it basically just seems like a pit, or I guess more like 1,000 little pits in the ground that have been dug for people to crawl and die in. Um, Vosh, I was loosely involved with the Young Democrats Club at my college. A lot of that club's membership were socialists and anarchists working alongside social democrats. They were also very politically effective and actively affected state and city politics around our school. In comparison, the socialist Marxist clubs were full of lunatics that never actually got anything done. Yeah, literally. Every time I see this happen, it's the same story over and over and over again. Yeah. Because the smart leftists realize if you want to change anything, you have to do so within like viable channels of power. And the only people left who are stupid enough to like go to the communist club are the people who what want a book group, reading circle. Like what are you doing? Why are you there? What's the point? You know. Not to mention, a lot of them aren't actually communists. They're just campists and reactionaries and so on. Edgy socialists. Yeah, that's true, but I think it's worth it as a meeting place for lefties as long as you can avoid getting bogged down in the drama. Why is there drama at all? And also, if you want a meeting place for lefty, if that's it, then it's just a glorified social club. Is there something? Is there something to ensure quality between chapters? No. Or can just anyone open one? I'm not sure what the process is for opening a new chapter. I think that you need to be like, I think there's some voting process for like endorsing a new chapter to make it like an official DSA chapter, but I don't think there's like a real standard you're held to. college Democrat orgs across America are more communist than socialist or communist college. Or yeah, yeah. Have you ever been to a socialist alternative meeting? No. I don't even know what that is. It's a lot of theory. I don't need. I don't know. I honestly, I hate theory so much. In all the years that I've been doing this now, I've talked to a lot of people who proclaim to be knowledgeable on theory, people who said they weren't, people who have done shit, people who haven't, smart people, stupid people. Theory has never played into any of it. Not once. We are the only ideology where people like signal virtue over how much you've read century plus old texts on like economy and philosophy that none of them have actually ever read. It's just a matter of how well you can bullshit. Like nobody does this. Liberals don't do this. Libertarians don't do this. Fascists don't do this. Nobody does this. It's literally just leftists. I don't think it's worthwhile. I actually think that in a vacuum, reading theory can make you smarter. Like in terms of your knowledge on blah blah blah. Like it's good. Okay. However, I actually think that if I had to choose, like, who knows more about communism? Who can I trust more to give me good opinions? And I could choose between two groups. One group that had read a lot of theory and one group that had read none. I would go with the group who'd read none. None, not a single word. Because even though reading theory in a vacuum might make you know more, the kind of person who reads theory, in my experience, is infinitely more insufferable and worthless than the kind of person who just goes, yeah, I believe in like democracy and egalitarianism, and I think that these are good principles towards it, you know? In my experience, it's not that reading theory makes you know less, it's that the kind of person who would go for it. It's kind of like how past a certain point, reading a bunch of books signals more like about your personality type than it does about your literacy, if that makes any sense. Vosh be like, knowledge is bad. It's not what I said, but whatever you prefer to justify your. But Vosh, haven't you read all theory? Yeah, I'm the exception, obviously. That makes sense if you mean the sort of person who brags about theory. To be clear, this is a very like narrow margin because nobody who is has actually read it. Again, I've talked to so many so-called fucking, oh yeah, I know about, they don't know anything. I don't lose these debates. I don't know less than them. It's pathetic. Every time this keeps happening, nobody reads theory. Nobody's read it. No one here has read Capital. Nobody has. Except for me, of course. Um, Nobody engages with this shit. And usually the people who are loudest about having read theory are the ones who know the least about it because they're compensating for a lack of knowledge. To them, it's just dogma. They might as well be reading the Bible. It's like Bible passages, you know? You ask them a question on anything and they'll respond with some vaguely related line that they may or may not remember correctly. And it's, you know, it's like quoting scripture. No, there's no actual engagement with the thinking or the material analysis. Why? Hey, rather here, you can do one or the other, okay? Rather than reading theory, how about you learn about material analysis, you know? Rather than like reading the books, what about learning the thought processes that you know, led to their development, you know? Infinitely better, infinitely better. If you were to choose between those two. I will never forgive like the broader community here for normalizing and accepting the idea that it's somehow like reasonable to go, oh yeah, you know, we're meant to be this broad coalition, this big tent to unite the working class. Also, by the way, to be a good advocate for these beliefs, you need to read doctorate level 19th century literature, because if you don't do that, it means you don't know what you're talking about. Never mind the fact that literally every question and every political matter and every economic policy that you could possibly advocate for can be easily argued for, demonstrated, verified, and applied without reading that theory. You somehow still need to in order to be a real leftist. By the way, big tent working class. Yeah, we are truly the ideology of the global poor. Every proletarian in Bangladesh working in their sweatshops sewing your fast fashion together for 3 cents an hour. You know, we're doing this for them, actually. They've all read Capital, in fact. You're the only one who hasn't. We're the party of the working class. No one said we needed to let those filthy proles in the room, though. True. You know, I've always thought about this. Who, you know, the proletariat might be who we're fighting for, but who says they're capable of managing their own revolution? Perhaps if we formed a small elite group of upper middle class academics and ideologues who create some kind of vanguard to advance the interests of the other, I mean, of us, the proletariat, you know, once we seized power, obviously we'd work to better the interests of all of the of us. So give us power and guns, please. Have you read any book, Chin? I've read everything. Are you really saying the DSA is elitist? The DSA is full of people who wish they were smart enough to be elitist. It's a good game, Raging K. You do realize you're passing out free clips to every tanky. The fascists get confused and upset by stuff I say all the time. It's not really new. Again, like, dude, it's been 5 years now. When I was earlier on in the YouTube thing, I did have some like respect reserved for the idea that like, oh, I might be smart and knowledgeable and rhetorically effective in some ways, sure, but there's like a lot of really big brain theory people who could probably read my ass and sit me down, you know, if they would show up, and nobody showed up. I've talked to smart people who care about theory, you know. Zixizi. Wait, is Zixizi the person I'm thinking of? Yeah, I'm almost positive it is. Yeah. Anarcho Pack, but that's not what she goes by these days. That's just always the one that pops. Zoe Baker, thank you. Yeah. Who, I mean, I have disagreements with them, but I certainly don't think they're stupid. You know, I respect I respect their intelligence. But the gap is just not that big, guys. You know, in my experience, usually theory just seems to be a way to obscure and obfuscate the rhetoric around bad ideas. Not in their cases. Well, maybe in some ways, you know. They're not ride or die Biden, but a lot of the times it does just seem like a way. How do you construct like a impenetrable rhetorical barrier around a bad idea? You know, it's very disappointing. I think that the important thing to learn is the material analysis bit, you know, historical materialism, whatever. I think that's the important part, like the underlying process. I'm biased because that's a sociological theory, and I got a degree in sociology, so obviously I'm going to, you know, promote the thing that most orients with my interest and knowledge. But still, I think that's the important part. I mean, otherwise you just get shit like this, you know? The left is just such a worthless bulwark of power and political support. It doesn't do anything. The left doesn't do anything on an international level. The only reason right now we're seeing a big shift in terms of people's perceptions towards Israel and Palestine is because liberals are moving over. Leftists already hated Israel. The only the only reason things have gotten more loud and visible with regards to pro-Palestinian advocacy lately, the only reason the Biden admin is sweating, the only reason their approval ratings are going down, Biden's I mean, is because liberals are shifting over. Leftists are so distanced and shiftless and unreliable and ideologically motivated, even to the point of like political unviability, that it keeps them from actually swaying anything. It's like the way the Bible was originally only available in Latin. Yeah. You know, I have made the point that the whole everyone needs to read theory or you're a bad leftist thing is incredibly elitist. And there have been snobs who have never read theory before in their lives, by the way, on like lefty subreddits who have said like, wow, Vosh really thinks it's that hard to read theory. And then they go on to pretend that like it's very normal for everyone in a political movement to be like, you know, reading big textbooks of philosophy work, you know? Hey, Destiny, when you watch this take, keep your hands in your pants. He's not one to sneer at other people for the process of constructing large rhetorical barriers around stupid ideas, to be fair. You remember that dumb fuck Stalinist you argued with way back when who said peasants aren't actually proletarian? Yeah, the reason he was... So that was a good example of theory getting in the way of somebody's knowledge. The proletariat technically describes like a capitalist... like post-industrial relation between the worker and the bourgeois. But the idea then that like in a colloquial sense or towards a broader picture, peasants are not proletarian in concept and nature, that's ignorance, you know? It's kind of like, it's like a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. Like, you know, just enough to know that there's a kind of historical material barrier between the proletariat and the peasantry, but not enough to know that in the context that I was using the proletariat, that's sort of a transpositional value of the underclass that would refer just as well to the peasantry to the modern proletariat. Just a meaningless semantic distinction that did nothing but wasted multiple minutes of that conversation. Not that, you know, it wasn't better for the rest of the conversation. Vosh, I mean, in the case of stuff like pre-Soviet Russia and in Catalonia, they had popular education orgs to help people, but it's not like leftist movements have much of those anymore. Yeah, also, the most successful, like, advocacy and, outreach groups towards educating people for leftism have done so in a way specifically tailored to the interests of those people. First of all, we live in the modern 21st century, okay? So things have changed. But second of all, and more importantly, like, there is a reason why Karl Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, which was meant to be like essentially a dumbed down, simpler, you know, iteration of his beliefs and theory that could be sort of passed around like in pamphlet form, like something a little bit more, not literally pamphlet, but something that could be digested a little more easily. But we don't really make effort to do that anymore. Any sensible leftist of the modern day who's operating in the West should understand that the most effective way to bring people over is not to go on and on about the USSR and Marx and communism and the proletariat and the bourgeoisie and blah, blah, but rather to relate, you know, what people are interested in to their common day-by-day experiences, try to meet people where they're at. This is like the very basic level of material analysis that somebody should need to have before they can consider themselves an advocate for socialism. But people fail at the first hurdle because they want to demonstrate that they're a super knowledgeable leftist and they're cool. They're not uncool like their parents, you know. They're not down with the system, and you know, as a consequence of this, their rhetoric doesn't hit with anybody other than people who already agree with them. Really? I heard Masague, I heard that the Japanese Communist Party was pretty good sometimes. What do you think about writing theory that applies to the current day? No, theory is for people who read theory. Like, who reads theory in chemistry? Not regular people, chemists. If you read theory, it's for people who are at the like upper crust of education. Theory, by definition, is not accessible to the average person. That's why it's called that. There is no historical or economic theory that's just like, oh yeah, common reading for the everyman, you know? If you want to write like anything, text or whatever, anything that like relates to people, you know, get in line. There's lots of people who do that. It's not like an underexplored environment. The question is not, how do I write information on this subject? The question is, how do I popularize it? And that has a lot more to do with presentation than it does. Like, everyone wants to be the theorist, you know? But, you know, we've done a lot of writing and not a lot of revolutioning. We've got a while before we catch up to what we've written already. The popularization of this material is what's most important now, and that means you need showmen, you need people who advocate, you need people who, you know, do a song and dance about why it's important. But a lot of lefties don't want to do this because that involves A, going outside, B, talking with people who don't already agree with them, and C, it means they can't be like their daddy Marx or whoever the fuck they're personally trying to emulate, you know? The Jacobin is literally a theory magazine. Yeah, so yeah, go to your average like Midwestern fucking blue collar family and ask if they've read that zine. You know, go get the demographics of the people who read Jacobin and see if that's like a broad distribution of the proletariat or if it's overwhelmingly consumed by people who are, you know, already leftist, and in many cases, I imagine, more educated than the average person. I've read their articles. I really don't think high school dropouts are consuming that content that often. Not saying it's impossible, totally possible, but probably statistically speaking, mostly being consumed by people who already agree with the premise. Now, I'm not saying that makes it worthless. Jacobin puts out good stuff sometimes, not denying that. I'm just saying that if you want the changes that you want, and I would like to imagine leftists want the changes that they say they want, what you have to do is popularize. And that means you get your striped hat, you get your cane, you get your zoot suit, and you run around town, you scream at people, and you tell them what they want to hear. Don't lie, but talk to them in a way that relates to their struggles. Nobody in America today gives a shit about terms like bourgeois and proletariat. I shouldn't say them, but I do. The most effective advocates for leftism will never use the term leftism, much in the same way that the people who have pulled the most people over to the right have never used the term fascism. The loudest fascists in America do not call themselves fascists. And this is, on their part, a kind of deliberate dishonesty. I don't advocate that we all go crypto or whatever. I'm just saying that if you're going to convince people, you're not going to do it by getting, 300 million working class people together in a room and explaining to them Marxist theory. What you have to do is show them top 10 knife carving soap videos in a leftist way. You got to show them the train runner, what was it, the runner video that's on the TikToks. You got that, here you go, overlaid with leftist messaging. You got to find ways to get people invested in these ideas. And that means a lot of dirty work. That means compromise. That means doing what Bernie did. That means doing what AOC does. I'm not saying they're above criticism. I criticize both of these people, and I'll continue to in the future. You can criticize me. I'm just saying this is where the work needs to be done. In spite of the fact that the dude's a fascist, Second Thought understands this. He puts out mainstream appeal videos on his main channel that touch on leftist concepts, but usually do so in a way that resonate with people. You don't need to be some kind of crazy communist to go watch his main videos. Now, again, his adjacency to leftist theory might be purely coincidental given his actual values, but God, at least he's trying. I mean, can we not learn something from that? I like Christ, even that's ahead of the average here. Make it relatable? Yes. That's like politics 101. Leftists struggle with this. From my perspective, leftists struggling with the relatability aspect of organizing is kind of like a leftist organizer stepping outside and then not understanding the concept of putting one foot forward in front of the other, and they fall and hit their head in a beam and die. Like, relatability is literally the whole way you do this. When fascists pull people over, how do they do it? They fearmonger while tying a person's insecurities to real or imagined issues that they can point to and say, this is what's causing it. In-group, out-group dynamic. Be fearful, be angry, let's go. When liberals do this, they tell you about how, happy Lockheed Martin is that they can finally introduce the very first disabled queer Latina to their, single mother, to their, employee registry, and how this is the future making, and how you too can join with it. You tie it into what people care about, okay? So what do people care about that leftists can advocate for? Everything. Literally everything. 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 Everything going on in a person's life can be tied to what we advocate for. There is nothing, this is not like a niche issue, This is pretty fucking holistic. So how do we keep failing time and time again? Why do I look at socialist orgs and go, oh, wow, this is a gaggle of retards the average person would laugh at? Why? Why? As a political platform, theoretically, we should have the advantage here. We did in times past. We used to be so successful at mobilizing people that dictators all around the world had us fucking killed for it. We were the first people they killed because we were so effective in mobilizing the working class. And now we're so worthless that we're not even considered a threat. Like the thing that the fascists in this country, like Trump and the GOP and what have you, the thing they're facing down is not leftists because we're worthless and useless. The thing they're facing down is like the weak, meandering, semi-abstemious, liberal, legal institutionalist blowback. That's what they're afraid of. Meanwhile, we're just dancing around, whatever. We're having fun, reading theory. We used to be so scary to them, and now we're nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I blame the DSA. I blame everyone but me. I blame all of you. I blame the sun in the sky. I blame my cats. I blame everything but myself. Thank you. All right, rant over. We're moving on. We are nothing, and yet we're the focus of all their propaganda. Yeah, that's great. We're nothing except a fucking weak ankle. I love that. The left has accomplished nothing except being a target. Bosch, can you talk about the do men even like women discourse? Sure, yeah, I'll give you the answer. No, men don't really like women. A lot of men are so deeply socially alienated that they find women to be a sort of adversarial force that represents nothing more than a potential weakness in their stoic masculinity. They resent women for being attractive and for leveraging their social and sexual value over them. So a lot of guys just view women as a kind of obstacle that has to be overcome and then tamed so they can continue to live a life of stoic emotional abstinence. So yeah, no, men don't like women. Except for me. I love women. Artemy. Artemy. Why do you have a poopy butt? Clean your butt. Disgusting. Nope, he's gonna flop. What sources would be good for leftist rhetoric? Me. Unironically becoming blackpilled and self-proclaimed communist. Don't, yeah. 99% of the people who call themselves communists online are fascists anyway. Go work with liberals. Go be the best liberal who smiles every time somebody asks you a question related to like economic outcomes, and then you can give like a covert moderate answer. You know, whenever someone asks, what do you think we should do to address inequality, and you can do like a little smile. You can be like, yeah, I just think that, you know, the working class deserves a little more, you know? Just have a good time with it, okay? Don't associate with people who call themselves communists. Do, by all means, associate with communists, but not people who call themselves communists. Now, working class. I think working class is an okay term in the current sort of political dynamic. I don't think working class is that hard of like a, you know, a partisan signifier. Even like conservatives say working class. What about anarchists? Anarchists are a lot better to work with, I think, than communists. They're less likely to shoot you in the back of the head, for one. Also, anarchists do be getting freaky, so good social pool to pull from if you want, you know, Mad Dick or whatever. In terms of political effectiveness, they're about as bad as any other leftist group, but in terms of like their likeliness of actually being a fascist, it's a lot better. All anarchists are retarded, though. That's true, but you're in VGG, which means you are too, so you should be in good company there. You can sort of like do a sloppy makeout and bump your head fucking divots in together. I get my news from John Oliver. Good. John Oliver is more politically effective and has better messaging than 99.9% of leftists in the United States. That's why they rage over him. Can I work with MLs? I mean, you mean like in the workplace, or do you mean for political advocacy? I don't think that fascists and us have much in common. You have any recs for meeting people IRL without getting involved in orgs? If you wait, you mean just like socializing with people? I've done segments on that. If you mean like for political organizing, just go join with the Dems. Literally, just be a good influence to Democrat groups. You're going to have a lot more luck than joining in with whatever drama-filled No, and Benjamin, stop spamming. Jesus. Can I work with MLs? Already answered that. Banning you. Oh, I'm going to get all of you. What if my only locally organized leftist group are Trotskyists? Trotskyists are insane, and they're not really any better than MLs. The beef that MLs and Trotskyists have with each other is some obscure, like, shadow of a historical beef that neither of them can describe or articulate in any way. If you put an ML and a Trotskyist in a room together, they would dislike each other for reasons neither could explain, because they're both dumb animals, and neither of them know anything about leftism. Don't associate. Also, Trotskyists are way more likely to be cultists, so, yeah, there's that. The actual beef is that MLs are anti-Semitic and Trotskyists are the MLs that aren't anti-Semitic. Sure. Artemy, you're blocking the blue light. Artemy. Artemy, you're blocking. I'm going to make you roll. There we go. What the fuck are the pants today? What? I'm just wearing shorts. Should UK lefties try to move Labour left? I have no idea. I'm sorry. The UK is a dead country. It doesn't matter. I don't know. How dare Vosh wear shorts after his drip arc? Do you think shorts can't be drippy? I'm just wearing a regular shirt and shorts today, but like shorts can be perfectly fashionable. What segment? I mean, that whole rant presumably was some kind of segment. People defending a female serial killer and being anti-sex work on Twitter. What? What? Isn't this a little bit too down the rabbit hole? She killed rapists because dead men can't rape. Correction, only one of the 7 men she killed was a rapist. The other 6 men were completely innocent. The other 6 were completely innocent. They were buying sex from her, which is a form of rape. Consent can't be bought. Okay, nice. Average radfem? True. This is just optic poison pitabort. Holy shit. Well, to be fair, these people aren't leftists. Does this person consider themselves a leftist? Rad-leaning atheist black lesbian. A lot of jokes I could make. Not going to. Okay, let me see. Holy shit. Kishida is kicking all of the Abe faction members out of his government. Chief Counter... nice. Is this... Again, I'm not that familiar with how the Japanese political system works. Usually in America, when a new president comes in, they kick out all of the previous cabinet members. It's pretty rare for that not to be the case. Did Kishida keep in the previous cabinet members? These are cabinet members, I take it, right? Chief Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Economy. These are cabinet members, people directly appointed by the Prime Minister. I mean, that would make sense to me, at least. And they're all being kicked out? That's pretty based. Yes. My years of anime fandom have prepared me for this. Is he to the left or right of Shinzo Abe? I don't know. I know that Abe was pretty fucking bad, though. Japan's been ruled by the same party pretty consistently for the past 50 years. Yeah. Japan is Japan even a real democracy? Like if you're a one-party democracy for that long, I don't know. There are some cultural markers in place that have really, 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 like, sort of, I guess, crippled the actual democratic value of your system. They have not been in power constantly. I'm pretty sure they basically have been. They have a very low voter turnout. Wait, hold on. Japan election voter turnout was around 56% at the latest Japanese House of Representatives election. That's not great. Oh, dude. This got worse than us. Look at this. Holy shit. This is really low. Well, you can show this to anyone who argues that the establishment is not prepared to handle the leftist glorious strategy of not participating in the electoral process, They kind of do, but young people are dumb and don't vote at all. To be fair, when you have a system that is as entrenched as the Japanese do, I can't really blame people for being really disinterested and disenfranchised. On More Japan News, the release of a famous transphobic book was canceled due to links to the Unification Church. Well, yeah, of course. Transphobia is illegal in Japan. They literally invented Fuda porn. The article speculates the reason for the swift cancellation of Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze. Oh, I know that. Released in Japan might be due to protests, as publisher ignored this before, but because they found Regnery Platform's authors' ties to the Unification Church. Oh, nice. Classic. What's the Unification Church? It's the big cult that has it's their deep state. It's pretty global, but it's mostly Japanese. Some guy thought he was Christ or whatever. Shinzo Abe had a bunch of ties to it. A lot of creepy shit. Fleeced a lot of money off vulnerable people. A lot of powerful people benefited from it. It's just some creepy cabal shit, like real though. I thought it was Korean. Is it Korean? So Japan Scientology? Yeah, sure. There are videos on it to learn more. It's a thing, Started in Korea? Okay, gotcha. Is it closer to Mormonism or Scientology? I don't know. It's from South Korea, but way stronger in Japan. Okay, yes. The founder was actually North Korean? Based. Well, wait, was it founded before or after the Korean War? No, whatever. I saw this. This was pretty funny. This is very recent. So Zara, the pretentious fast fashion monochrome brand that you've seen plaguing your local shopping center? They put out some promotional images that led to a bunch of outrage, and they had to pull some stuff. There's not that much to it. They had like armless statues and plaster casts that people said looked like the bodies in Gaza that were being wrapped up. Like, see, yeah, here. Don't tell me this is a coincidence, because you've got this androgynous person holding this, but then this, so it's like a reference or something. That's a fucking stretch. Yeah, it's a fucking stretch. There's not actually any connection here. But people are sensitive right now, so Marketing over a hashtag genocide. New low. Our pain isn't for sale. New Balenciaga. This is dumber than the Balenciaga one. I do think the Balenciaga like bondage stuff on a teddy bear thing is like weird, but I'm not going to extrapolate that into global pedophile conspiracy. This is just like, I mean, it's Zara. I don't like them, you know, but yeah. I am beyond disgusted. Using genocide of the people in Palestine for your campaign. I will never ever buy anything from Zara ever again. This is cruel, heartless, and evil, mocking more than 20,000 deaths of Palestinian. Ugh. Nearly 1 million views. Anyway, the Zara has pulled down the promotional images, so like it obviously didn't mean anything. They did the shoot, and then people were like, "Oh yeah, it's because the bodies are white." One of Zara's people did say some bad stuff about Palestine, though. I don't know about that, but I doubt that has anything to do with the actual shoot. See, it's like how plaster dust covers the faces of the Palestinians when the Israeli bombs go off, see? Yeah. Kind of a cool photo shoot in a vacuum. I think it's pretentious, but yeah, it's not that bad, I guess. I guess I think it's kind of cool that for a price point that's about where you can get clothes at, like from the Gap or whatever, you have somebody who looks like this. Because looking at this, you would think it's like high fashion or whatever. And then you see a $38.99 leather jacket, and you have to wonder what fucking slave conditions the children who sewed that together must have been put through. So paper mache is anti-Semitic too? Yeah, always has been. Oh, here's the quote. I guess that's bad. Maybe if your people were educated, then they wouldn't blow up the hospitals and schools that Israel helped pay for in Gaza. Yeah, that's a pretty bad thing to say, I would say. Vanessa Perelman, Zara head designer in 2021. Yeah, that tracks. I don't think there's any association between this quote and this photo shoot, but that's pretty bad. Yeah. Not a good look. Not a good look. Yeah, following the release of this campaign, people dug up Zara's head designer's previous message to Palestinian model Kaher Harhash on Instagram. Yeah. Yeah, now I'm siding with the boycotters here. Well, the statement is bad, but like this definitely doesn't have anything to do with. Anyway, they pulled the images, so the blowback, immediately. Kenichi has model Kristen McMenamy. Okay. Part of me wanted to take Vosh seriously, but at the same time, I know better, as he's usually very nonchalant about stuff. You should take me seriously whenever I say something that you think is true and agreeable, and whenever I say something you think is disagreeable, I'm actually making a joke. I think that's the best. That's the best thing you should do. Just sort of oscillate at whatever is most convenient for me at the time. That'd be good. Thank you. Yeah, good strat. Good strat. Anyway, yeah, it's stupid. I saw a bunch of posts about this. It's not the only. It's not the. I looked up like on Google Palestine boycott because I know that today is supposed to be like a big general strike or whatever, which is stupid. This will never work. I don't want to do 2 segments in a row that are me screaming about how bad the left is, but like this is so when I say counterproductive, I'm really masking. Like this is unbelievably fucking retarded. Please stop with like every 2 months another, hey, this time for real now, general strike, none of which have ever done anything ever at any point. Like what, seriously, global strike? Are you kidding? Yeah, dude, we're gonna shut down the planet on Monday, December 11th from December 9th. You know, we're going, all right, 2 days. Are you guys ready? Shut everything down. It's just no school? Like, Jesus. You don't strike for 1 day? No, for one, you don't. You don't strike for 1 day. That's not how strikes work. If the strike's going to end at the end of the day anyway, I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. It's so stupid, man. It's so stupid. Only something Western leftists do, by the way. The idea of like some genuine proletarian uprising being mobilized in Sri Lanka or whatever, off the back of people going like, yeah, tomorrow everyone stop doing things. It's because leftists have no interest in and no patience for actually building a platform or a base of power that would allow them to do anything cool or interesting. And that's because stuff like this is purely being done to virtue signal. This individual who is classic, ceasefire now, Palestine maybe, yeah. Palestine flag, Palestine flag. Like, this is posted entirely to virtue signal. They didn't expect anything would come of this. It doesn't matter. They just want to be seen as one of the people. These should seriously be seen the same way that posting the black square, like, Instagram profile pic for BLM was. Remember that? Like, did we call every liberal who did that fucking revolutionary for putting a black square as their profile pic? Vosh, now we get one-day strikes around here. They're basically warning shots. Yeah, but they're organized by things, not just like random shit. Like the one-day strikes in those cases, those aren't even proper strikes, really. They're just like walkout days or days of solidarity, you know? But they have to be organized by something. There has to be a power base, a union, or a political party, or whatever else, you know? Not just like, oh, yeah. We do a fun segment now. This is depressing. Every day we do a stream. Like, yeah, the big takeaway lesson should always just be like leftists are terrible, which is true. Good news. You're gonna have to come up with a more specific tagline than that. It needs a centralized group that can direct it, Vosh, like you were saying about the DSA. Well, in fairness, a global strike is never going to happen by any group ever for any reason, obviously, because that's insane. Like, that's never happened ever in all of human history. I don't know why people would think it would happen now. But yeah. What about Starbucks losing 11 billion because of boycotts? Uh, what? How has Starbucks lost money? Can you point to me where the 11 billion was lost? October 7th is here. And then did we all do an opposite boycott right here? And then this is the boycott? Are we taking credit for this half dip from the spike that happened at the end of October? The boycotts don't work. Unless, like, boycotts have to be very specifically targeted. Guys, please, they've never worked. When have they ever worked? Ever. They've never worked. Ever. They don't work. They don't work. They never work. And I always see and it's funny because boycotting is like the most liberal fucking way of showing political power too. Like, I know how we're going to stick it to this corporation. We're not going to buy any more stuff from them. Like, this is literally like the most fucking slacktivist shit you can imagine. But there are people on leftists arguing like they're acting like they're some kind of like fucking vanguard, like revolutionary for not going to Starbucks or whatever, you know, and going to other people being like, you can't even handle this. Like, it's so stupid. It's okay, Puzzle Bub. I love you. Didn't the Montgomery bus boycott work? Very specific group, very specific target, very high stakes and deliberate action, locally concentrated. Starbucks is a global brand. If you want to influence a global brand, the only thing you can really do is like disseminate meaningful, like stockholder relevant bad news about them. And that's not really possible to do for a corporation on this scale. You know, like, what the fuck are you going to say? Like, Starbucks does genocide? Bitch, every corporation does genocide. What are you going to, like, that's all the stockholders are going to divest off of that, you know? No, it's not going to happen. Stupid. Yeah, if you want to, Nikolai. Also, the calls for boycott are for like all brands trading in Israel. Yeah, I'm sure we'll definitely meaningfully do anything, you know. Was that one so good you had to say it twice, Benjamin? You've been spamming messages a lot today. Don't forget the nerd boycott of D&D Beyond. Okay, there is a difference between a boycott and consumer backlash. If a company does something that their customers don't like and the customers respond negatively, that's not a boycott. A boycott is a broader refrain from consuming their products, you know? But it's not like if you're not boycotting Bethesda after 76 or Starfield fucks up or whatever. Like that's different, you know. That's just they did a bad thing and people didn't like it. As was the case with the D&D Beyond fiasco and you know that whole business. This is this doesn't have anything to do with any product that Starbucks has put out or any behavior of the company as it relates to the customers. This is just like why is Starbucks even being targeted here? Because they sell shit in Israel? Fucking everybody sells shit in Israel. Wait, why? Can somebody, why? I don't even know why. There are no Starbucks in Israel? On March 31st, 2003, Starbucks announced they'd be closing their stores in Israel. So, we did it. We did it, Reddit. Seriously, why are we boycotting Starbucks? Why are people boycotting Starbucks? In response to unfair labor practices and a lawsuit over a social media post shared by the union in support of Palestinian rights. What? What? No longer be on ASU, Arizona State University. Demonstrators at the event told the Arizona Republic that they were demanding the removal of Starbucks from all ASU campuses and ending the ASU partnerships with companies that, according to the group, were complicit in the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. Federal lawsuit filed by Starbucks against the union in Iowa over a pro-Palestinian post shared by a union social media account. What's the lawsuit about? The company sued for trademark infringement. Wait, is this entire fucking stupid, useless, pointless, not going to do anything Starbucks boycott that a bunch of retards are going to pat themselves in the back for being revolutionaries for participating in when they didn't order anything anyway, purely because Starbucks filed a lawsuit against a union for using a similar logo, and they just happened to like make a pro-Palestine post, and they don't even have business in Israel, and through all of that, that's it. That's really it. God, I fucking hate our move. Oh my god, I hate left more than you could possibly fucking imagine. Oh my fucking god, you have no idea. Holy shit. Wake me up in a world where I'm the only leftist and everyone else is just a liberal. Holy shit, we'd be so much more effective. I'd be so much more effective. Oh my fucking god. Let me out of here. Let me out. What is this? Let me out. Let me out.
In terms of a permanent ceasefire, I don't know how you could have a permanent ceasefire with Hamas, who has said before October 7th and after October 7th, that they want to destroy Israel. They want a permanent war. I don't know how you have a permanent ceasefire with an attitude like that.
Obviously, Bernie's been broadly cringe here, but he's not wrong on this. Hamas has to go, or at least change significantly. A permanent ceasefire can't actually really be done with Hamas as it is right now. That's not wrong. Like, obviously, like, he's been cringe broadly. The point of a ceasefire is not that then the status quo resumes. It's then that, like, restorative action is taken from Israel that it makes irrelevant Hamas by giving a better, like, path forward for the Palestinian people. But yeah, okay, whatever. Bernie denounced AIPAC after they posted this. Yes, this is like a snipe. AIPAC is a right-wing organization. Bernie knows it. Everyone knows it. Bernie denounced AIPAC and called them a far-right org that, like, backed Jan 6 insurrectionists, which they are and which they did. So... Have you seen this guy get mad over Starbucks? What is this? Why the fuck? Why are you link? What the fuck is this? This guy? This is the butthole guy. Why are you linking me this? I should ban you. The Nathan Galang. I should ban all of you. Have I seen this compilation of dog whistles from Internet Historian on your subreddit? Yes, Internet Historian is almost certainly a Nazi. Yeah, he dog whistles like fuck. At the very least, he's like alt-right friendly, or is so like immersed in 4chan like alt-right associative culture that that he dog whistles the same way that they do. A lot of it is from older stuff, which makes me wonder if he's changed at all. It is possible, but you know, a lot of this is weighted towards honesty, or I guess the lack thereof, and the fact that he was very dishonest about the plagiarism scandal with Man in Cave gives me the impression that he's not just being quiet about his positions, but is rather just like sort of actively dishonest in how he presents himself, which makes me much less charitable to the idea that he might have changed. But it is what it is. That's base, Teletech. Nice, Kelio. All right, close that. We're talking to someone in 20 minutes, by the way. I forget why or about what, but I know we are. I agree boycotting is useless, but do you think there's even a little bit of value in the notoriety and cringe publicity from socials and Zoomers doing it? 99.9% of the time, I think that the constant screaming for a boycott, which leads to nothing, does nothing but make us look incredibly weak. It's like, I said this about boycotting Hogwarts Legacy, and I was correct in it, because I'm correct in everything that I say. That if all you do is constantly signal to the world that your most like consistent and loudest advocacy doesn't do anything, like what do you do? All you're doing is telling everyone that you're weak. You know, it's pathetic. Boycott this, boycott that. What does it do? Nothing, but keep shouting it. Like why not focus on stuff that works? You know, like it's really, really, really pathetic. Like, do you not understand how weak it makes conservatives look when they try to like boycott Disney or whatever and it doesn't work? Don't we laugh at them for that? Do you realize you're doing the same thing? The exact, like, it's incredible to me. Like, you can point and laugh at DeSantis. Haha, there's DeSantis. There's no way you can take down the mouse. Dude, this guy looks ridiculous going after Disney. By the way, boycott Starbucks. Like, fuck, at least DeSantis is a governor. Who are you? Who the fuck are you? Nobody. You're nobody. Why? Vosh, stop acting like we did that. Stop being so fragile to take personal offense when I rhetorically direct complaints towards a general you when I'm talking to chat. Vosh from earlier, the amount of straight up homophobia I've seen from turf swerfs regarding surrogacy is insane. Oh, you mean with the Shane Dawson thing? Man, this is like a perfect storm for homophobes because there are plenty of legitimate reasons to think this is disgusting, but a lot of people are just going to use it to dump on like gays or surrogacy or whatever. Is that Shane Dawson? That's Shane Dawson. What's up? They got a surrogacy baby. Or two, I guess. I don't know who this other guy is. Isn't he a pedo? He certainly said a lot of pedo stuff. What do you think about surrogacy? It's fine. Wait, is Shane Dawson gay? Yes? Whatever. The other guy is Shane's husband, Ryland, a total clout shark. Shane Dawson and Dane Shawson, yes. Who the fuck is Shane Dawson? Go to Google. You could have Googled it in the time it... Obviously, like, Shane Dawson's always an acceptable target to dunk on, but there are a lot of people who are going to dunk on him, and this broadly, just because it feeds into the, like, gay pedophile narrative, or, like, surrogacy is child slavery narrative, or whatever the fuck else, you know? So... Nice, Kowalski. The Shane Dawson vid is still your most viewed video, lol. Yeah, because getting a highly viewed video in cases like that has a lot more to do with just finding luck in the algorithm than it does in anything else. However, there was something to go over there, a fuck ton of allegations. Now it's just like, oh yeah, they're a dad. So it's not a segment here, you know, not really. I don't think all criticisms of surrogacy are homophobic, though. Okay, I'm sure there are some issues with surrogacy on like a structural or institutional level, but what are the issues? To my knowledge, there's not any data to suggest that there's any like psychological harm done to a kid to be raised via surrogacy. There's a lot of exploitation of developing countries. Yeah, but that's like a structural thing. That's not an issue with the concept of surrogacy. That's just like in its implementation, there are issues, you know? Which, yeah, sure, it's the case for basically everything. I don't know, I'm just sure there are some. Ashkeys, what the fuck? Why would you say that? I don't think all criticism of surrogacy is homophobic, though. Oh, like what? And then you're like, oh, I don't know, I'm sure there are some... Now that's a VGGer. Vosh, it just seems kind of weird paying people to get pregnant. Why? People get pregnant for free. Thing you can do. Yeah, it's just a 9-month long-term babysitting. High effort babysitting, some might say. Don't know, just a gut feeling. Well, that's hardly a good argument, Ashcase. Basically, poor women being wombs for hire. Sure, but at that point, you're doing the same thing that people do with sex work, where they're like, I have an intuitive feeling that this is some special kind of labor that is icky to pay people for. You know, if you can pay people for any other kind of labor, I don't think there's anything innately wrong with paying people for surrogacy or sex work or whatever else. But the arguments kind of overlap. The idea that there's something sacred about giving birth, which I guess even from a humanist perspective, I guess you could argue like, sure, maybe there is something sacred about producing a life, to whatever the fuck that means, but the life is produced, right? Like that's not interfered with, you know? Like there's no like the baby's still born. Nothing negative happens in that. Like I don't think the sacredness of a human being being born is like, oh yeah, now you get to be raised by the person who shit you out. That's not the part of the birth that I think is super cool. You know, it's like the fact that they're alive. They can be raised via surrogacy. isn't it really bad for the mental health of a pregnant woman? To be fair, most work is bad for the mental health of the people involved. I mean, yeah, but they're being paid for it. It's not like they're being forced to. Except in like the broader, we are all forced to work because our labor sustains our life and Um, okay, Ashkeys, I love and forgive you. What do you think about selling your organs? I don't like the idea of selling your organs because I think that creates a very toxic incentive in a way that can like hurt or kill a person. I do think there's something distinct about organ selling that differentiates it from something like giving birth to a child. Like pretty massively so. For one, if I recall correctly, surrogate mothers are paid a lot. Um, Obviously that would vary, but I'm pretty sure they're well compensated. Like they're doing a pretty like long-term dedicated bit of labor there, literally. Um, Whereas I can see a world, I guess, where it's like, every poor person has one kidney and they sold the other for like 2,000 or whatever. I guess I feel like there's a lot more room for economic exploitation by opening up the organ market than there would be for sex work or for surrogacy. Cruelty Squad NPCs in chat. True. Same as something like child labor and selling yourself into slavery. Even if it's technically voluntary, the world is better when those things aren't legal / incentivized. Yeah. I think it's okay to put barriers on what can be done, even within the bounds of consensual choice. However, I don't like the idea of that. I think there's a difference between organ sales and surrogacy. Do you think there'd be any merit if the state giving people family money if they allow their organs to be donated to the system? Like if they die? Like if a person died and then the state would compensate the family of the person who dies for the organs harvested from them? I can still see a lot of negative incentives there, but I guess past a point you're doing the same thing as every other thing, right? Where it's like, well, can you monetarily incentivize stuff that's harmful to a person's health? And then there's kind of like a fuzzy barrier on that. You can ask people to work on an oil rig or be a lumberjack or whatever. That's pretty dangerous. I don't know. I feel like you guys are like currently arguing me into being okay with organ trafficking and sailing. So is that the intention here? Are you guys trying to argue me into like a Malayan position on organ sales? Um, Maybe. Okay, yeah. Would you support an opt-out organ donation system for citizens? Um, yeah, I think so. I think that by default people should be organ donors. Yeah, I think it's pretty dumb that they're not. The idea, like it seems, yeah, it just seems stupid. A lot of people need organ donations. If everyone by default was an organ donor, that would probably like immediately solve the problem. It just makes sense, And you can still opt out. Like if you're of a religion or a culture where you have like a special burial preference that involves the like organs being present or what, like I don't know, you can opt out. But I think like a lot of people just never check yes because they just don't, I think it's okay to. Yeah, exactly, Gayfesh. Just do a simple change like that. Nice, Just Be. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, if you want to have your organs removed and put in like burial jars so they can be preserved so that your servants which are buried next to you can carry them with you in the afterlife, then it just seems like all the point against organ selling seem to apply to being a surrogate. Well, all the points against organ selling and being a surrogate apply to all other forms of labor. Fundamentally, the question is, in a capitalist system, we are kind of forced to work, and a lot of people are poor, and desperate people are more likely to do harmful things to themselves. Excuse me. Um, in order to get the money they need. We have legally banned some things like organ trading. For money, I mean organ selling. Selling yourself into slavery. You used to be able to do that. It was called indentured servitude. You would pay for a trip to the new world with like 6 years labor when you got there. Um, we don't do that anymore. We do, however, allow lots of stuff that desperate people can do in order to make ends meet. You can sell your blood and plasma. You can work. You can physically work yourself to the bone until you die of stress. Like, that's allowed. The truth is, there's no hard line that says what is or isn't good, I think most of us can agree we probably don't want poor people being incentivized to sell themselves into indentured servitude. And I don't like the idea of poor people being highly incentivized to donate their organs or die to, like, money off the organ sale for the family. I am okay with surrogacy, though, because I don't know, it kind of feels like surrogacy just isn't as fucking bleak. Like, surrogacy is like some chick with a fertile womb gets like 50K or whatever, and then a infertile family gets a kid, and that seems kind of nice, I guess. Like, I don't think that incentivizes like a hideously negative trade the way that indentured servitude would. Maybe things would change one day and like all poor women are like basically baby factories for money, and maybe like we could re-examine it. But for right now, I think it's good. Looks like the payment for a surrogate mother is like $65,000 to $85,000. That's crazy. But like, yeah. So the only issue I have is with compensation? Well, no, it's about compensation, what you're actually doing. Like, you're producing life for a family as opposed to just like selling an organ or working yourself away. Like, yeah, no, it's not just compensation. The fact that there is high compensation is, notable. But Vosh, pregnancy can be really dangerous, and having a baby can leave lasting effects on mental health. Yeah, but not only does all work potentially have danger and mental health issues, but also women be having kids anyway. Not only are women having kids anyway, it's socially necessary for them for the species to continue. This isn't like slavery or whatever, or organ selling, where we can imagine a society in which there is no slavery and there is no people having their organs harvested. We always need children being produced, and this is just another kid being produced. There's no difference between a woman producing a kid for a surrogate couple or for their own family in terms of the danger to their body for the birth. The only difference is they're getting paid for it here. We're not enabling a new evil that would not otherwise be absent. This evil, the harm innate to childbirth, will always be a part of humans as long as we exist. In this case, it's just being done on behalf of another, but it's not like adding anything negative. The negative utility of childbirth persists in both cases. It's just a family getting a kid. Let us get the kidneys, Vosh. Okay, you guys have convinced me. I'm pro surrogacy and I'm pro organ trading. Okay. 65K doesn't seem like very good compensation at all for 9 months of growing a human. I don't know. It's a lot. It's like more than the average yearly income. And for a lot of your pregnancy, you can still do a lot of other stuff, right? Like, it's not like an 8-hour-a-day job for an entire year or even for the 9 months. For a few months, you're completely unaffected, except, I guess, for the nausea. I mean, like, in terms of the baby bump, and then, like, the encumberment increases. But I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of money. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. It's definitely not. Average cis man, how bad can pregnancy be? Oh, come on. I'm not saying it's easy. Can't drink? Well, you shouldn't drink anyway. Be Sigma. Postpartum? Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy, but women get postpartum depression when birthing children for their family too. Like, again, we're not creating a new evil here. Vosh, they literally vet for people who have had easy pregnancies before. That is true. Surrogate mothers aren't just any old woman. The women like sort of sign themselves up as potential surrogate mothers based on their birthable hips. Basically, if you see a fat bitch with big milkers and wide hips, it's like, oh yeah, she'd shit a baby out no trouble. That's the one you knock up, easy peasy. What are your views on mothers who breastfeed until like 10 years old or whatever? I don't know anything about raising a kid, basically, but that seems pretty weird to me. I don't know. It seems very weird. But I don't know. But that seems pretty weird. But I don't know. But it does seem pretty weird. My full set of thoughts on the issue. Don't you have a call in a sec? Yeah, I do. That makes sense, Keelio. Yeah. Have there even been, how many cases are there of like surrogate mothers dying in childbirth? I see an article of it happening from 2020. One from 2015. I'm guessing it doesn't happen that often. A couple hundred women die in childbirth every year, so we would have to do some math. It's fine. We have a conversation we need to have. We're going to converse. Do you think fertility services / treatment should be covered by insurance? No, I think they should be free at point of service, period. The idea that, like, producing life, the thing that is not only, like, socially necessary, but also necessary for states to continue. Like, listen, the United States of America will continue to remain strong whether or not you get cancer treatments. I'm sorry to say, if you die, there are more kids to replace you. The United States of America will die if no more kids are produced. If there is any kind of health care that should be just fucking free, like no insurance, just literally no cost concern, it should be anything related to fertility care. It is insane that it's not, frankly. Like, why do you think the birth rate's lowering when it's like $30K to fucking birth a kid or whatever? Like, it's insane, you know? Like, I wonder why people don't want to have kids. All right. How ethical is it to choose surrogate mothers based on breedability and appearance? That's fine. If you're choosing a surrogate mother, I'm going for the most snatched bitch I could. Are you kidding me? I'm fine that some 6'2", goddamn beautiful brunette. All right, my kids are gonna come out fucking snatched as hell. They're gonna all be blue stealing me as they get pulled out of the womb. They're gonna get yanked out by the head, and they're gonna be doing them fucking absolutely. Yeah, it's not designer baby eugenics, okay? It's designer baby baby mama, all right? Surrogates don't give DNA to the kid. It depends on the type of surrogate. Okay, hold on. Would you pick a woman that's taller than you? Fuck yeah, sure. I don't fucking care. I like tall bitches. All right, we're doing the thing. We're being rude. We're being rude. Hello. May I call you? Surrogate means no DNA, otherwise you're just poly. I'm pretty sure you can have a surrogate mom who you impregnate normally. I'm almost positive that you can do that. Am I wrong? Does surrogate necessarily mean that the egg is implanted always as well? You're right? Okay. Hello?
Hello, Vouch.
Hey, that's the name. Howdy.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you all right. There's
Wonderful.
there's some background audio, but at the moment it's not too loud, so I don't think it'll be an issue.
Does it sound like because that's the fan?
Yeah, but it's survivable. I've survived worse, you know.
All right. Well, I know we have some sensitive listeners in chat, so it's off now.
We have many
hello.
autists in the community. That's true.
Absolutely.
Hello. Yeah. So we're on a tight schedule. I know we're both busy bees, by which I mean I have more Rain World runs, not Rain World, Risk of Rain runs to lose. Tell everyone name, pronouns, and why are you here?
Hi, I'm Rose. Pronouns she, they. I'm here to talk about, well, kind of the opposite of what you talked about earlier, but not really, just like a different perspective. I'm here to talk about Jewish anti-Zionism and the response from Zionists, and also just organizing on campus.
Yeah, you're an organizer, aren't you? For the was it Jewish Voice for Peace?
I am. I'm a little new at this. I wanted to bring on a friend who's a little more established in the community, on my campus community, but unfortunately she wasn't available for today. So I'm just going to go with what I think she would have said and what I have learned from the past few months of organizing and doing stuff. And I'm sorry if my voice shakes a little bit. Haven't spoken to whatever number of people this is before.
Don't worry, it's 5 people, and it will be okay.
It's 5 people, and it's going down to 0 pretty soon, anyways.
That's true. Yeah, they can't stand anything that's not a debate. You know how it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So wait, I guess I wanted to intro with my thoughts and my perspectives on this. So we've never before seen such an upswell in support for the Palestinian people in the United States. You know, I have been a very active advocate for the rights of Palestinian people for the whole time I've been doing this, which admittedly has only been 5 years, but in internet time, that's a decent length of time. And, you know, for the most part, it's usually just been lefties who've been loud about this. Now, yes. I know liberals are getting on board. They're having a bit of fun too. You've been doing the actual organizing effort. I was very curious to hear what your experiences have been, especially since you do this on a college campus, which has always been a sort of political battleground, but now I imagine more so than ever.
So political organizing is, I have approached, so I've been watching you for a while, so I've kind of absorbed some of these, like, what's the word? Like, goal first approach to activism, by which I mean my first question whenever anyone's planning any action is, what do we hope to accomplish from this? What are like the direct effects of what we're about to do? So like there was a protest a while back that we had scheduled, where like we were going to protest some transphobic speaker. We kind of, there was some drama that ended up making it not happen, but like I was pretty much the first person in the conversation being like, okay, but like, what are we actually doing here? Like, do we want to make sure, like, we want to make sure they don't get a bigger voice because of this protest, et cetera, et cetera. So I did have like a, like order of topics I wanted to discuss.
Please.
So first of all, just about a bit of an update, like of just like protests on college campuses. As you mentioned, there have been like a shit ton of, wait, can I say that? Oh shit.
You can swear all you like, and you know you can if you've watched the streams. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But you're used to doing organizing work, which means in your environment you typically can't swear, I imagine.
Oh no, I swear all the fucking time.
There we
go. Even accidentally. So there have been a lot of protests on college campuses against Israel's actions in Palestine over the past few months since October 7th. Yeah. On our campus, it started after so there was an event organized by Students for Justice in Palestine, SJP, who are a pretty common organization on college campuses at this point around the country. And they organized it, I think with a few other groups, basically just a vigil, like a small event in the chapel where like just people were able to talk, give speeches, and kind of just like grieve, because there are Palestinian students on campus and they needed a community space to grieve. And not only did the university make us, well, I wasn't involved at this point directly, but I was involved with Students for a Democratic Society, not the old one, the new Students for a Democratic Society. We have a chapter on campus. We're pretty good. The university made SJP move their event because it was occurring at the same time as a Shabbat service, and they were concerned about violence, basically, about like unrest between Jewish and Palestinian students, which Palestinian students found very like offensive, obviously.
Understandable.
Yeah. And then after they made SJP move the event, which, by the way, was basically just a funeral. Like, that is the vibe that was going on there. They sent not one, not two, but 3 undercover public safety officers to the event.
Public safety officer, are those cops or are those just campus?
That is campus cops, basically.
Gotcha.
Campus security. I don't know if the terms that I use will get people to know exactly what campus I'm on, but whatever.
No. But yeah, though they're pretty common, like all across. And campus cops are cops. They're not like small security cops or whatever. At least at the university that I went to, they were literally just a police department that had their own little branch at the university. Because university campuses
a little while
big.
ago, they were trying to get guns. Actually, they were trying to get their like normal officers armed, and there was a whole thing about that. They seem to have stopped for now, but we'll see if that picks up again. But essentially, not nice people.
Yeah, I remember fondly when I went to university. One of the campus officers was doing their like little intro seminar or whatever, and we had a portion on what to do in the event of a shooting, and it was basically just this like middle-aged like balding fat white guy being like, all right, now last case scenario, all right, everything's not working out, you charge him. And they don't expect that, okay? They're shooting, you just run at them, and hopefully you get to them quickly.
shock value.
Can't kill all of you.
Catch them off guard. Okay, yeah. So from that, there were a bunch of protests for the last few months, actually. Basically trying to get the university to apologize and recognize the Palestinian genocide as a genocide, and just a bunch of other divestment goals and stuff like that. There was recently a meeting between administrators and students that went pretty well, but they did end the meeting. I wasn't at the meeting, but this is what I was told. They ended the administrators ended the meeting saying basically, don't test us. Which led to today's action, it was not intended to be a protest, but SJP had some people standing in the student commons, and at least one person was arrested today. And it's not exactly clear what happened at the moment. So that's not great.
What do you think happened?
Well, because I wasn't there. I was fetching my medication from the hospital. From what I've heard, it sounds like this person felt threatened by the office, by some public safety officers, and hit one of them.
All right. Yeah, that will get you arrested.
Yep. Yeah.
It's been known to happen.
Meanwhile, on other college campuses, people are getting arrested left and right. University of Michigan, a week ago, I think, 2 weeks ago, 40 students got arrested for basically blocking their administration building. And when they were trying to do a sit-in, that was a whole thing. A bunch of weeks ago at a nearby university, a Jewish student got arrested and was doxxed on Israeli social media and stuff like that. So
I remember there was a lot of that at Harvard too, where there were open calls to like release the names of people associated with an org that made a public pro-Palestine statement, so they could like preemptively blacklist them.
And there are orgs that that's their job, that they just come on college campuses, or they use like information from college campuses, and then they basically used that to create a list of students. I think they're called the Canary Mission. I'm not sure how active they are currently, but they were one of them that was like really big for a while. So all this, I don't know how many months ago it is at this point. 2 months ago?
Thereabouts.
I think start of November. The Jewish students at my school, me and two others, we were like, well, there's more than that. But me and two other Jewish students at my school, we were like, we need to counter these narratives of anti-Semitism on campus, because to be clear, there is no anti-Semitism, or there is very little on college campuses. At this campus, there is none, absolutely none. College campuses are a very safe place to be. If you're Jewish, you're surrounded by very progressive people and very well-educated people. It's not like you're going to be surrounded by neo-Nazis or something.
Yeah, unless they come from out of school. I want to temper that just because I know people will run with it. Obviously, any kind of bigotry can be present anywhere. My impression is that while anti-Semitism is very common in the United States, this is not typically from the, disproportionately young and educated college demographic. Whereas when it comes to, say, Islamophobia, you'll see that shit, repped by the actual college staff. They'll actually, there's institutional weight there.
Well, luckily our faculty have been pretty supportive of the protests despite the administration. And basically, so we met together and we were like, we need to form an organization with a few goals. One is to just, provide support for the pro-Palestinian protesters, and just be a Jewish voice for peace. And another one was to counter some of the narratives that we see in our own Jewish communities. Now, I don't know how much I can talk about this on stream, but it's been rough. Jews are pretty liberal in America, and especially coming from such what we thought were very chill liberal families, and then the second October 7th happened, and before that as well, but especially since October, it was shocking to see just all our family members suddenly be like, yeah, yeehaw, let's fucking kill Palestinians. Oh god.
Clip.
Yeah.
No, I was saying clip. I was joking. No, this is a kind of ideological inconsistency, I guess, that's really been rearing its head lately, where there is, of course, a liberal bent towards the Jewish population in the United States. Mm-hmm. Who could possibly wonder why Jewish people are sort of critical of conservatism. But then when it comes to Zionism specifically, there's a very knee-jerk reaction there, which I understand. I disagree with it, of course, but the sort of historical precursor, what led to that, it's pretty obvious.
There's definitely a fear in Jewish communities. A lot of people are acting very much rooted in their fears right now, and it's really unfortunate to see how they're channeling this perception of history as into violence, basically.
And that is usually the root of fascist movements as well. At the core, ultimately, there is a fear of persecution from an outgroup. With the case of Jewish people, there are a lot of outgroups who I consider, I think are pretty reasonable subjects of suspicion. I don't think the Palestinians are. I don't think they have much power. But it's an unfortunate kind of deliberate misdirection. You see this a lot with the rhetoric of Netanyahu, right? Where he'll talk about how, the Jewish people are under threat, they're only safe in Israel, but then he'll not only do things that make Israel less safe, he'll pal up with people who make Jews less safe. Like with Trump. Netanyahu loves Trump, and Trump is loved by Nazis. So
same with Putin. Netanyahu loves
Yeah.
Putin, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they get along weirdly well, considering the fact that Israel's supposed to be like a Western puppet state. Because strongmen like strongmen, and
Yep.
and Putin obviously is a supplier of far right interests all over the world. So yeah, it's a deliberate effort to displace that fear of persecution towards groups that are not actually committing it or at threat of committing it.
Yeah, I've really tried to kind of switch the narrative. I'm not a history person, I'm a linguistics person, but I think people have this common like misconception of history where they view it more as a narrative of like individual of like all these individual groups, and so they end up being like, well, there's, I mean, Jews are oppressed, but Jews are in Israel, so Israel couldn't be doing something wrong. Rather than viewing it, in a more Marxist or even intersectional stance, of being like, this is about power. Like, different groups, any group is capable of holding power, and we should oppose like the violence of of power, whoever is holding it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It's non-essentialism essentially. It's just
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
understanding that these are forces that exist outside of individual groups and motivations, and they can be transposed pretty easily. You can look at, like, I guess, Rwanda for a pretty direct example of how easily things shift from victim of colonization to genocide, or to victim of like subsequent ousting,
Yeah.
and so it goes, right? So you said the arrest that took place was quite recent, correct?
It was today.
Oh, that is quite recent.
Yeah.
That's about as recent as it gets, I think, if my math is correct.
Well, it
So
could have been like a minute ago, but
I was curious, in terms of your messaging, how have you been? I guess what has your experience been in seeing how other people on campus have taken to your messaging? Like, what do you feel the attitude is? How you're reaching out to people and how they're receiving it, essentially.
yeah. So, well, when we like established ourselves as an org on campus, we're not affiliated with the university. We're affiliated with just Jewish Voice for Peace, and that was more of like we very much wanted it to be like an on the ground thing, and not like too concerned with whatever organization we were part of, I guess. So we chose Jewish Voice for Peace because they sort of matched our politics, and because they would give us like resources or anything we need if we needed them. But when I'll come back to our establishment and our structure and everything, because I think you'll find that interesting. But like the first thing that we did was basically we made an interest form, and it got spammed with like 150 responses that basically called us either fake Jews or pee-pee poo-poo heads.
Gotcha.
So like we're really working on like some very mature people. But like it was the initial response from a lot of people on campus was pretty negative. But I think even more people, it was very positive. We're a very liberal or very like progressive campus. Actually, I feel like we're pretty left wing. Like I brought up the H Bomber Guy video with some people last night, and they all knew exactly what I was talking about. And like, so
That's good to know.
I think it's a pretty left wing campus. So we got a lot of support, and a lot of support from faculty too, including the Department of Jewish Studies, and we have friends in the religion department and the history department and English too. All the places you'd expect to find lefties. But yeah, a lot of so we met with with two teachers recently, just to talk about like what we're doing and what we can do moving forward. And what I learned from them, because they're actually like living in the city, and like just being Jewish around, Jewing around, there is a very strong like Zionist organization around here. Oh God, what's it called? The like Jewish Federation. They're very like powerful here, apparently. And it's like that kind of gave me a little fear about, just what like people are capable of, because our campus is open. Anyone could like come in and like shoot up a protest or whatever. God willing. Oh my God. God forbid.
Slip.
Jesus.
So
oh my gosh.
I want to know about these protests, how they're being handled and what you're doing in them. How have you, I guess, tried to spread the message? You said that Jewish Voices for Peace has been willing to provide materials as well. I'm just curious what that entails, what the actual organizing effort looks like.
Yeah, so our protests are much smaller. Well, we're not a very big school, but we haven't really needed any outside support from Jewish Voice for Peace. We're getting stuff from PSL. They're sending people. PSL is Party for Socialism and Liberation. I know they have problems. I was involved in a protest in New York City with PSL, and they did some really just stupid stuff.
I've heard rumors about that. Yeah, my experience with sometimes that's an issue when it comes to organizing like this, especially when you're sort of working outside the traditional liberal framework. If you want to do something that's sort of unobjectionably democratic, like or in line with the Democratic Party, like, I don't know, abortion rights or whatever, you usually have a pretty easy time finding an apparatus that will help you do that. But that is by no means the case for all issues, and sometimes you end up next to some pretty wacky individual.
Our local PSL chapter has been pretty good to us. There haven't been like too rowdy or anything, which is good. I think, as you said earlier, like these like leftist organizations really are like 1,000 small tents. So it really is a mixed bag. Like you're gonna get someone, and that someone could be good or bad, and it really just depends on who you are and where you are. But protests on campus have been very peaceful for the most part. The administration had some problems with people carrying flagpoles and shit, but like we've been good boys and girls and NBs. But like, okay, wait. A lot of the organizing that's going on is trying basically to get into the room, get into like talking with the administration, and getting to maybe even talk with some of the trustees, if possible. That was something that was brought up in the meeting with the president, and we don't really know if that's going to happen, but we're trying to like focus on whatever we can do to accomplish the next thing in a way. Our goals right now are, well, just to get support from the university at least, which is a very difficult thing to do, because they're at risk of losing their like federal funding because of allegations that that universities are not making places safe for learning. Like they're not making their campuses safe learning environments for Jewish students, which again is not factual. It's just, but So we're like really fighting an uphill battle. But yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of what's next, what do you mean by that? Getting the administration's attention is one thing, but there are a bunch of ways you could potentially do it. I'm also kind of curious, like to the extent that these protests have already taken place. I want to know what you did for the protest. Obviously, over specificity is something you might want to avoid. But in terms of like, how do you do it? Like, what is the strategy? Where do you walk? What do you say? What are the attitudes held? That kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. So most of it is we walk around campus. We walk in the like public areas of the library, where people aren't studying because we don't want to disrupt them. That would be really rude. And the university will fucking murder us all if we disrupt people studying during finals week.
Right.
We go through the commons, we protest outside the administration building. And it is mostly chanting. But recently people have, we've kind of upgraded our protest tactics in order to, like, those things were basically to get the university's attention, I guess. The next step, and I'm speaking for SJP here, so, which I'm not a part of. The next step, it seems, was to get get into a conversation with the administration. So that involved like going into the administration building and letting protesters in and doing a sit-in or die-in or whatever needs to be done in order to get the attention of someone high enough up to have a productive conversation with.
And have you been able to get those done yet, or is that like future planning?
Yeah, so we did get a conversation with the president and I think the provost, something, or one of the deans, and maybe like the dean of diversity or something. And they were basically like, they said all these things that I said to you, like, we'll lose our federal funding. We have Chuck Schumer on the phone every time there's a protest here, to which people clapped. And basically, like, look, we don't ultimately have power here. If you really have a problem, it's up to the trustees. So an SJP organizer was like, okay, let's talk to the trustees. So we're kind of waiting on a response to that request. Meanwhile, our JVP chapter. Oh, something I shouldn't mention is that both these organizations are being forced to operate completely, SJP and JVP. We're both being forced to operate completely anonymously. So everything's on, well, most of it is on Signal chats. We have to clear new members. No, we're not we've sworn to not say anyone's name, things like that, because we're all very concerned about a few things. We're concerned about, people losing scholarships. We're concerned about people getting doxxed. And just like having the university punish us or someone else take out their frustration on us. So it has been like pretty scary. But meanwhile, while we're waiting for the response from the university, JVP, we're trying to schedule a screening of the film Israelism, which isn't just some commie documentary like you were talking about earlier, how all these left-wing organizations are basically just book clubs. And that's something I have been actively pushing our organization and our SDS chapter to not become book clubs. And people have been agreeing with me. But it's an award-winning like documentary, I think. And the goal of that is to just kind of start a conversation among students and kind of get us more support and just to educate people. Educating people is important.
What would you be showing the screening to? If you're trying to get support, presumably it wouldn't just be to people who are already a part of your organization.
Well, we will try to advertise it as best as possible and to encourage people who are not active to come. But you know, ultimately, it's up to anyone else who like it's up to people whether they want to see a movie or not. But it like we do think that.
But it would be like a public screening in a classroom or okay.
Yeah. And then if the university tries to shut us down or if people like protest outside of it, that ultimately falls in our favor anyways. So we don't have like much to lose in that on that side. Plus we're trying to get we're basically going through the faculty and like trying to get as much support as possible, and they're being very supportive, which is really nice. Do you have any more questions about like what we're doing on campus?
Well, I think I understand. It seems to me like I think that the claim about Chuck Schumer shutting down federal funding or whatever, I think that's bullshit. I think that, you know, as is so often the case, the limp-wristed administration is afraid to take any real stance because they don't want to alienate, you know, their donors, the trustees.
I mean, who knows? Chuck Schumer's a dick.
He is, yeah. But like the push necessary to strip federal funding, like you know, that would be a significant investment of political power. I feel, not to say it's impossible. It's certainly not. It's just I'm guessing they really just don't want any backlash from the trustees.
It does seem like it is really mostly the trustees, because we even got like some support from especially the dean of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think, or I don't know who the other person in the room was. I think it was that guy. Basically being like, look, I think you guys are, you should be able to protest. I don't think he necessarily gave a signal whether he agrees with us, but he definitely supports us like being able to continue. And it does feel like they're kind of cucked by the trustees.
Many such cases. The fact that the staff are positive towards what you're doing is pretty good, at least, because it means they haven't had that much pressure applied to them to sort of compel them to not positively associate with you and what you're doing. So that at the very least is good. That's a positive signifier. I hope that your screening goes well. I hope you're able to drum up some decent attention. Obviously, this is not something for which you're responsible, but in the future, it would probably be a good idea to keep students from assaulting police officers. I know students be rowdy.
But there was one more thing I did want to talk about, which was, I hope, assuming we have time, which was the structure of our organization, because I think you might find that interesting.
Please.
So basically, we've committed. When we formed, even all our actions were by collective decision, and even like whether we should join Jewish Voice for Peace, Jews for Voice Peace, and we have sort of in our time that we're developing, I guess, we're very committed to remaining a democratic organization, or horizontally structured, whatever, like, you know, direct democracy, anarchist words you want to use.
Whatever buzzwords we're fond of here.
Yeah. And that was something, I mean, not to take credit for all of this, because that's kind of the opposite of the point, but that was definitely something that I really pushed for and really wanted, because I didn't feel like any individual person should be like a leader to it. And because I just believe in, direct democracy. And so far it's been working out really well. We've had as our group has grown, I think we have 20 something members at this point, which is pretty good. As our group has grown, we have kind of had to move from our little Signal chat to a bigger Discord server, where we can just organize things better. But it is really important to us that we maintain that collective decision making. So everything is put to a vote. Even new members, or we don't have anyone who any individual who's able to clear or kick members. Anyone who wants to get in has to be cleared by as many people are present. So that's definitely something very important for us.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. Student organizations have a tendency to be riddled with drama, and they tear themselves apart in the long term, because there's such high turnover with people graduating. Inevitably, that will happen here too. It's unavoidable. It's just a matter of getting stuff done before that happens. The business right now in Israel is happening on such a short time span that I think student organizations are going to have a disproportionately effective band of time to influence the way things go down on their campus. For you specifically, of course, I mean, I don't know any of the details, but I hope you're able to sway a lot of people. I hope you're able to get a positive response from the admins, but I sincerely doubt the trustees will go for it, because they are, of course, wealthy, and wealthier people tend to be conservative, and conservatives tend to be Zionists. So, there's got some overlapping negative correlations there. But still, there probably is a lot that can be done. If you're getting positive responses from other students and faculty, though, that's a pretty good start.
Do you mind if I give some I'm not really endnotes, but just think not recommendations. What's the word? Advice to people who are interested in, starting organizations and stuff like that, and just working on campus and doing things, doing anything really.
Please.
So basically what I've learned is, well, obviously, first of all, you have to be willing to go out there. Sorry, chat, to all the introverts and social anxiety people. You have to talk to people. But it's really important to find people who share a common vision. If you're starting an organization, that's part of why we've been very successful so far. We all agree, not on everything, but we essentially agree that we're here to get shit done. And so it's very useful to be working with people who are also here to get shit done. Unfortunately, not everywhere is like that. I think it can be useful to join organizations with the intent of, being hey, I think that this organization is a radical book club, and I think that we need to put more work into actual action. But when it comes to action, I think a lot of people get lost, because the most famous, I guess, the actions people pay attention to the most are protests. And I think that's a very small part of what activists do. And I think this is, I don't think you've spread this misconception, but I do think that as just a result of how protests are focused on the most focused on the most by media, I think that you fall into this trap a little bit, where we sort of over-focus on actions, and then people who self-describe as radicals but don't actually know what they're talking about. They say, well, protests aren't everything and voting isn't everything. We have to do direct action and mutual aid. And then they never elaborate on what that means. Or they just think direct action means blowing up a police station, which
they never then do, by the way. I would have, I guess, at least some lingering respect for ineffective leftists if their ineffectiveness was tied directly to their willingness to actually do the stupid shit they talk about. But instead, no, we don't even get that,
But we don't support that. We don't condone.
Of course we don't condone that, but we also don't condone laziness, chat.
Yeah. But some things that you can do, especially if you live in an urban area, there's a lot of organizations and just groups of people who are on the ground pretty much any day of the month, like actually accomplishing things. So things that you could do if you are a chatter or just anyone, if you're on a college campus, it's worth looking at whatever orgs are on campus. And if there's no one who's really doing it for you, maybe reach out to some of the people in those orgs and be like, hey, would you like to form a new organization that's focused more on like actually accomplishing things? And I guarantee you, some people will say yes, and some people is enough to start a movement. If you are living in like a city, for example, there's plenty of organizations that are like that give food to homeless people. There's I went to an abortion clinic defense over the summer. That was great. That's one of the things that people like. I think people should really mention more, because abortion is under attack in a lot of places, and there's a lot of times that we need to. There's a lot of like protesters and stuff outside of abortion clinics that create a problem for people coming in. There's just all this stuff that you can do. And there is, voting, but in addition to voting, and this is what I think Progressive Victory is good at, there's, actually like spreading the message to people, and also like, contacting representatives and stuff, especially local ones, because local politicians have more power than you think they do. And just like having enough people to do something can, like, just having enough people trying to force a change can eventually create a bigger movement and a bigger change. Movements start small and grow. And I just think it's really important for people to just kind of get their asses off their gaming chairs or their couch or whatever, and
Chad, I use an ergonomic chair. She wasn't referring to me. No, I mean, this'll surprise you, but I agree completely.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Also, as a linguist, I appreciate that you've been improving. I said this in chat the other day, but sometimes earlier on when you talk about linguistics, I kind of tune out, because I'm like, it sounds like you're thinking the right things, but you have no idea what you're talking about. But recently, you've been doing a good job. So yeah, good on you.
I've been upping my my Tom Scott language YouTube video consumption to absorb all knowledge in the universe.
You should learn to read the International Phonetic Alphabet. It would improve your pronunciation quite a bit.
I think my problems with my pronunciation have a lot more to do with my mind running ahead of my mouth and my lack of respect for other languages than it does with any like actual hardline knowledge. All the same, I'll consider it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, it's nighttime, but you too.
Is it nighttime? Yeah, I guess it's winter. Take care.
It sucks. Take care.
Bye-bye. That was fun. Touching mental grass. How do people keep themselves from joining bad orgs? If there are a lot of orgs that promote good things which are terribly rotten, how do we avoid them? I feel like I only joined so many orgs because I was in uni once, right? I feel like it's kind of difficult from personal experience to extrapolate out the logic on this. But I feel like when I hear about orgs that end up going bad, a lot of the problems are evident really early on. It's almost like a bad relationship with like an abusive partner, where usually people get all starry-eyed because like they're getting sloppy-toppy, or they're like talking to other people who agree with them for the first time. But if you actually step back and like look at things critically for a second, oftentimes it's really obviously fucked from the get-go. That's the impression I get from what I hear, at least, you know? So it's just a matter of being able to assess that. What does PSL stand for? PP shit ligma. Yeah, I hate it getting dark so early. True. Any truers in chat? All right, we're not done with politics yet, dipshits. We still have stuff to talk about. I'm hitting the ad button. You can't stop me. Thank you. Pumpkin spice latte. I wish I had a pumpkin spice latte. You know, I've never actually had a Starbucks pumpkin spice latte. I've never actually had one. I like pumpkin spice stuff in fall. You know, it tastes nice. And I like lattes, so I feel like I would like one. They're pretty good, but hella sweet. Yeah, I think the main problem that I have with that shit... Dude, there are so many coffees that you dipshits that get that are like 500 calories. What are you doing? You know coffee is 0 calories, right? If you add a bit of cream and sugar to it, it's like 30 calories. And then you go to a fucking coffee place and it's like, oh, here's my 500 calorie. You're just getting a milkshake. You know? Pumpkin spice latte, 390 calories. That's fucking insane. That's like 2 chicken breasts. $50 grams of sugar. Insane. But milkshakes are good too. Yeah, but usually milkshakes are had at nighttime as a dessert, but people will have their Starbucks fucking sugar espresso bullshit just like in the morning. That's not good for you. God damn. Unironically, drinking Starbucks coffee has started to help me gain weight. I mean, if you're looking to gain weight, hell yeah, but like, Jesus, fuck. A lot of people add like 200 calories of creamer to their coffee. Yeah, I guess. I just had a little bit of half and half and a little bit of creamer. Like, I guess a tablespoon altogether, and that's fine for me. I don't know. Did I say teaspoon? I meant tablespoon. That's true, Sake Tanuki. I agree. Gotta keep the retard convos going. It's very important. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Have I seen the ice spice latte? I have no idea what you're talking about. What about tea? I don't like tea. Gives me a headache to smell it. Ice spice latte. Duncan releases the ice spice. Oh, because it's like ice spice? Because it's like orange like she is? Ice Spice Munchkins drink. Ben Affleck and rapper Ice Spice collaborated to create the fall drink. What is happening? What does anything mean anymore? What? Ice Spice latte calories. A small ice spice clocks in at 590 calories, a medium 830 calories, and a large is 1080 calories. That's great. Love that. That's how Ice Spice got her fat ass. Just by drinking lots of these. All the fat just went right to her ass. See this? If you want to look like this, first of all, DM me. Second of all, drink lots and lots of Dunkin's Ice Spice large lattes or whatever. You like booty? Everyone likes ass now. There are like 2 people left who are tit guys. Same amount of sugar as a dozen box of donuts, yeah. I've done a segment on this drink before. Is this the drink that I did the segment on before? Yeah. If you like tits, you're gay. True. Okay. We're not done with politics. Oh yeah. Speaking of abortion advocacy, remember how in Texas, there's been like a court injunction and then threats of prosecution from Ken Paxton, the Texas AG, with regards to whether or not a woman can get an abortion when the fetus inside of her is guaranteed to die anyway and might potentially threaten her health to not have an abortion. She fled Texas, which is probably the smart move from her end, probably the right direction to take things. I'm not going to lie. I don't fault her fleeing Texas. Psychotic that this is happening, but you know. Kate has been unable to get an abortion in Texas, even though her fetus has a fatal condition and continuing the pregnancy threatens her future fertility. Last week, a state court ruled in Kate's favor, but within hours, Texas AG Paxton asked the Supreme Court of Texas to block the order immediately. This past week of legal limbo has been hellish for Kate. Her health is on the line. She's been in and out of the emergency room, and she couldn't wait any longer. That's why judges and politicians should not be making healthcare decisions for pregnant people. True. That fetus could kill her. Yeah, also, if she gives birth to that fetus, assuming that it's alive when she gives birth to it, all it's going to do is, like, suffer for a few days, then die. Like, that's it. That's the life that this fetus gets, you know? By letting it gestate, all you're really doing is giving it more brain development with which to experience suffering. Like, we're essentially creating an organic mass that literally, why do I exist? To suffer. Like, that is the only thing it can do. You know, it's pointless cruelty. It's monstrous. Yeah, their goal is only suffering. Remember, laws against abortion are and always have been about controlling women. That's not like some cringe lib, you know, take or whatever. It's consistent with their behavior. They don't in any way, shape, or form subsidize or provide protections for mothers or children who have been birthed or like healthcare payments or anything. They don't care about any of that. They only care about the very, very specific way in which preventing abortion kind of forces women into biological subservience. If a woman can get pregnant just like that by having sex, just, you know, sometimes birth control fails, sometimes the condom breaks, whatever, and that then guarantees a lifelong commitment to that child, it creates a world where women will always be effectively economic second-class citizens. You know? I'm honestly super interested in the right's take on this, the real one, not just the hyperbole. Genuinely, like, you can take a look at the rhetoric they're employing. They just don't want any exceptions, because once you start making humanitarian exceptions, you carve them out, you know, in ways that undercut the law. They don't care, you know. Sometimes they delude themselves, but yeah, I don't think you're going to get a straight answer for the most part. Yeah, it's pretty bad. This reminds me of the case in the Republic of Ireland in 2013, where a woman in Galway died while miscarrying. The entire case absolutely spurred on the pro-choice movement there, and the country voted overwhelmingly to legalize abortion in 2018. This shit radicalizes people. Yeah, it took a while in Ireland because it's like, they're all like Catholics. I don't know. Yeah. Keep in mind, like, as bad as it is, shit like this does so much to like negatively polarize women towards voting Dem. The numbers are in, man. The majority of Americans, even in red states, want abortion rights to be protected, and even more so women than men. Like, it's a huge shift, you know? Voting Republican, you mean? Yeah, they don't want to vote Republican because of this. Are most women pro-choice? Yes. Americans support for abortion protections. Remember, even the state of Kansas voted to keep the state constitutional amendment that protected the right for abortion. Like, Kansas, you know? Here. From Gallup. A record high 69%. Nice. Say abortion should generally be legal in the first 3 months of the pregnancy. The prior high of 67% was recorded last May after the Supreme Court's Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Law. Most Americans oppose abortions later in pregnancy, but the 37% saying it should be legal in the second 3 months of pregnancy and 22% in the last 3 months of pregnancy are the highest Gallup has found in trends of 1996. The number of people who don't believe it should be legal under any circumstances is like as low as it has ever been, you know? Did you see Ohio Republicans are trying to straight up ignore the vote to enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution? Yep. Remember, they tried to put a moratorium on amendments to their constitution, and then Republicans broke it in order to try to raise the threshold for a vote necessary to change things. And then the vote was put forward that they tried to stop but couldn't to remove abortion protections. But the issue 1 amendment, you know, happened the way we wanted it to. And since then, they've been trying to. Here we go. Even before the vote, some Republican legislators were already publicly exploring ways to undo or undercut its protections. Vosh, you make them sound evil? Do I? It reminds me of how in Florida, there were referendums held on re-enfranchising felons and like raising the minimum wage. And like DeSantis and the GOP literally just ignored them. They literally were like, okay, yeah, the people want these laws and they're now like legal, but so let's just like cut under it, you know, let's just undo it. Do you understand how unpopular this shit has to be for Republicans to be acting this way? Like basically openly saying they can't win on the popular vote and just admitting they have to undercut like the results of referendums? I think one of the problems was that Roe was upheld on fairly shaky legal grounds. Oh yeah, that is true. Roe v. Wade was always a bad Supreme Court precedent. Not morally bad, but the logic they used on right to privacy being the like constitutional wedge they were going to use, that was always legally shaky and always pretty vulnerable, yeah. There should have just been a flat-out clarification that like legal rights do not apply to fetuses, like period. That would have been like you could have easily done that with the available like constitutional material. I like yeah, it was pretty dumb, but you know whatever. A lot of our Supreme Court jurisprudence is on pretty shaky grounds. So meh. Even RBG had issue with it. Yeah. Obama campaigned on making Roe v. Wade law. Obama promised a lot of shit that didn't happen, huh? Would it be possible to pass a federal law instead of changing the Constitution? I mean, you can, yeah, but a federal law isn't as like sturdy as Supreme Court jurisprudence. Well, it depends. I guess it depends on the specific issue. Ultimately, a federal law has to go through Congress and the Senate. And, you know, would they be able to add an amendment to the Constitution for bodily rights? This is just my guess, but I'm locking it in. I'm bang, bang, I'm locking it in. We will never again see another constitutional amendment. Not in our lifetimes. At least not unless there is some massive cataclysmic shift to the two-party dynamic. You need 3/4. It's 3/4, right, of the states to verify. There's no way. Absolutely no way. Is it 2/3? I thought it was 3/4. Is it 2/3? Yeah, 3/4 of the states. 38 states. 38 of the states have to ratify it. I don't think it's going to happen. The last amendment was 1992, so I don't know. Yeah, but that was a different era, man. That was still during like the neocon, neo-lib era. What differences were there really between Democrats and Republicans back in 1992? I'm not saying there were none, but compared to what's going on today, like, you know, way more agreeability back then. Can anything challenge the Supreme Court's power? Nope. For some reason, following the assertion of judicial review, Supreme Court jurisprudence just kind of sits there, unchallengeable except by future jurisprudence, you know? It's weird. I mean, yeah, you can argue that you can like pack the court or whatever, but that's not really the same thing. That's not really a challenge to their jurisprudence. That's just like changing the system. Not true. You can challenge the Supreme Court by ignoring them. That's true. That's always the ultimate power that you have. The ultimate power move to fucking ignore them. Not that would really work these days, I don't think. Was Obergsfell decided on shaky grounds too? No. I'm pretty sure the legal argument for Obergsfell versus Hodges was really sturdy, if I remember. Hold on. Let me see. Let's run the fundamental right to marriage, guaranteeing to sex due process clause, equal protection clause, the 14th Amendment. Yeah. That's the equal protection clause. Yeah. This is a really, really, really solid argument. Yeah, I covered it, Didax. I mean, that doesn't mean they can't revoke it. It's not like they don't give a shit. Or sorry, it's not like they give a shit, you know. Isn't it still based on substantive due process? What do you mean? Supreme Court jurisprudence? I mean, they say what they say. That's true, Canoe. All right. Mada. We're not done yet. Warsaw Cinema screens live feed from Parliament amid change in government. This is a bit of a weird one, but follow through with me here. There was a live stream of the change in government as the PiS party, the far-right nationalist Polish party, they got blown out in recent elections, and the other day, the official change in parliament happened with the new, out with the old, in with the new, and it was live streamed, and the live stream had like 250,000 people watching it. It got a lot of attention, presumably from Polish people. For those unable to watch the big screen, events will be shown live on the Shem's YouTube channel. Since the election of a new parliament, the channel has record interest and now has over 440,000 subscribers, around 400,000 more than before Hołownia became speaker. Hold on, let me see if I can Polish live stream parliament. The first thing that pops up is an Asmongold Reddit post. I guess that's an option. Here, let me find them. Sejim RP? That probably means like PM or something? Sejim RP. Yeah, it's up to 500,000 subscribers now. Yeah, look at this. Here we go. Yeah, this just happened. Pretty crazy. Past live streams streamed 3 hours ago. Finished 3 hours ago. See, it's at 10 hours. 4 million views. I know it sounds trivial here, but this is a very high level of interest through new media of a changing of parliament. Like, there is a very high level of interest in the PiS party getting kicked out and replaced now with this new coalition. They have other streams with over 1 million views there. Yeah, they do, though none anywhere near as large as this one, the one that represented the changeover. But yeah, this is new. See, you go back a few months and it's all like 100 views, and then now in the lead up to the the new parliament taking hold, we get more and more attention. Until now, with this is a lot, man. This is a lot. The good people of Poland seem quite energized. in you know, their new representatives. It got so popular recently, some called it Sayimflix. That's funny. What is this? What does this YouTube channel represent? Sam RP? Is this like from a party? Is this a news org? What group is this specifically? You know, this is the official Parliament's. Okay, official channel for Parliament. Gotcha. Okay, I don't know that something that to me really represents like a new wave of interest that I think is pretty hopeful, considering this interest is coming in. Holy shit, this guy's old. This interest is coming in alongside like a removal of the far-right party. Okay, but why though? Is it entertaining? Well, think about it. Poland has been controlled by a somewhat unpopular far-right nationalist coalition for a long time. And now they've been ousted in this upset election. And now finally there's a changing of the guard. And this changing of the guard, you know, is you know, very popular, particularly among young Polish people. So of course their YouTube channel would get blown up. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's invigorating, not entertaining. That's one way of putting it. Let me see if I can find again the change. Poland begins delayed transition. Oh, we love that for her. To centrist pro-EU government. This is a really, really big deal because Poland is a very large country that has the potential to be a kind of like strong regional power, you know, to balance out, I guess, Germany's influence. But they've been anti-EU and quite right-wing for a while. This is a relief for many, including women who saw reproductive rights eroded and queer people who faced a government hate campaign that drove some to leave the country. Now, Poland is incredibly poor. It's populous, though. And Poland has, you know, the potential for a lot of development. Poland has always been, like, relatively underdeveloped, probably because they've gotten fucked over so much. Poland does not pour them out. Well, compared to Germany. But, you know, there's a potential for a lot more here. They have so much room for reform with this new system. Yeah, I want to see... Hold on. I want to show, like, the shift in party. Hold on. Can I... could this be because of Polish hatred for Putin? It is pretty likely that Russia's invasion of Ukraine has contributed to this. Nice, Bumfard Sparkles. Here, let me see if I can find... Here. 2023 Polish parliamentary election. Yeah, the PiS party lost 41 seats, whereas Donald Tusk, who's the head of this new coalition, the PO, the Civic Coalition, gained 23 seats. The Third Way group got 35 seats. And I don't know as much about these groups. Water Sports Party? Presumably. They certainly take the piss. Third Way sounds culty. Here we go. The Civic Coalition is now in charge of Poland, as I understand it. A catch-all coalition that is made up of political parties that occupy political positions from the center-left to the center-right. So to be clear, this is a centrist coalition. This is not some far-left coalition. But the PiS party has been so bad for so long that even this is a pretty significant change. As a Polish person, it sometimes gets absolutely hilarious, especially when PiS representatives were used to bending the rules hard, and now when they try to, they get laughed at, and even sometimes their mics are turned off. This reminds me of that Midwestern state that I'm not going to try to name because I always mix their names up, where they gained a one-seat majority in the Senate, the Democrats, and then they, like, rattled off a bunch of their policies, just put them all through, and then when it was time to, like, put forward the votes for the Republican propositions, they just like knocked them out like in no time. It's like, you want to do this? No, bang. Want to do this? No, bang. And then like, yeah. Fantastic stuff. It was Michigan? How can I know? Everyone in chat's saying a different state. The moral intern has taken power in Poland? Exactly. Yeah. The coalition's positions on social issues range from progressivism to Christian democracy. Love that for us. mainly oriented towards liberalism, aims to protect liberal democracy in Poland. It supports Poland's membership in the EU and NATO, which is a really big deal, again, when compared to what things were like before with the United Right. The loss of power. Right-wing coalition. It has pursued close relations with the Catholic Church, although in 2011, the Catholic nationalist faction split off to form United Poland. It also adopted right-wing populist positions. Nice, nice, nice. Less supportive of European integration, soft Euroscepticism. PIS has also put media under state control. Nice. Is Christian democracy supposed to be the antithesis to Christian nationalism? Well, probably to an extent, right? I mean, there are a lot of Catholics here. Anti-abortion. Oh, look, they put forward some money to reduce barriers for disabled people. That's cool. Well, whatever the case may be. Vosh, have you seen any info that is credible for the Republican Party's filing bankruptcy in several states? No. I know there have been reports from earlier in the year that said that several Republican organizations on a state level were essentially out of money. I don't recall them filing bankruptcy. Did something happen? I mean, if there's news. All right. There's one last thing that I wanted to talk about. That's pretty outrageous, like actually pretty insane. So I've said before that the UK is a dying country, and when I say that, to be clear, what I mean is, and I'm not joking when I say this, I make a lot of jokes about the UK and British people, and I'll continue to, but what I mean when I say this is that it genuinely seems like whatever rot has taken in that country, I don't even know how you'd get out of it, you know? Like, your economy's been stagnant for decades. Your people are wretchedly poor and miserable. Your cultural influence has waned tremendously. You've lost your friends and allies, the ones you used to have. You know, Brexit kind of like cut you off from a lot of potential avenues for future growth. It really, like, I don't know, it just seems like a hell zone. I don't even know what the way forward is. Like, the Labour Party has been completely cucked by Blairites. I don't even know. Now, the Tories in the UK at the moment, following all of the embarrassing debacles that have riddled the party for the past few years, they're incredibly unpopular. But unpopular does not mean out of power. We have to wait for that one. And while we're waiting for them to leave power and for some other, presumably slightly less bad option to take their place, they have been upping the anti-immigration rhetoric and potential policy. Namely, and we've talked about this before, Sunak and the Tories plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Now, the clever of you might know that Rwanda is slightly far away from the UK. See, there's an arrow pointing right here, and the UK isn't even on this map. It's somewhere over here. I think it should be on the map, though. Shouldn't it be here? I think the bit of it should be right here. Anyway, it's a while away. Now, why send them to Rwanda? Racism. That's it. The fear of asylum seekers in the UK has, always been particularly like outrageous and hyperbolic compared to other European countries. Like during, for example, the Syrian refugee crisis, there was so much panic and fear-mongering in the UK. You can take a look at how many Syrian refugees the UK took in versus everyone else. The UK is an island, or I guess multiple islands. You know, they're not getting flooded with refugees. They're not Turkey or whatever. Hell, they're not the United States. The United States at least shares a big border with Mexico. The fear on the part of UK conservatives of like immigrants coming in has always been of the sillier, as you know, Western nations go. But I'm not saying they don't take in any, just Jesus, right? So we're doing the classic dying empire thing of being extremely terrified of foreigners and of immigrants because it's a distraction from how inept and incompetent your government is. And the line has been, you know, what if we sent them to Rwanda? Why? Well, why not? Rishi Sunak's key immigration policy. That's right. This wasn't just an offhand statement. This sounds like something Trump would suggest, except it wasn't like an offhand suggestion. This was like a big thing that was being pushed for here. Has been dealt a blow after the UK's highest court rejected the government's plans to deport people seeking asylum to Rwanda. 5 judges at the Supreme Court unanimously upheld an appeal court ruling that found there was a real risk of deported refugees having their claims in the East African country wrongly assessed or being returned to their country of origin to face persecution. The ruling undermines one of the Prime Minister's key pledges to, quote, stop the boats. The government claimed that the £140 million Rwanda scheme would be a key deterrent for growing numbers of asylum seekers reaching the UK via small boats traveling across the channel, a claim that refugee charities have rejected. So this is a big thing with the UK. It is currently as well with Italy, where basically the idea is like the only way for us to stop immigrants from arriving at our shores is to make them suffer. You know, like stop the boats, let them drown in the Mediterranean, make them suffer, whatever. My question is not why, of course. My question is how. How is it cheaper to ship them there than Northern Ireland? It's not. But the point isn't saving money. The Tories don't care about saving money. The Tories care about taking brown people and putting them in Africa. You know, go back to where you came from. That's it. That's it. It's not, again, it's cartoonish. It does sound like something that Donald Trump would offhandedly suggest, except it's been backed with the weight of the entire party, you know? Reading out the judgment, Lord Reed, the president of the Supreme Court, said the judges agreed unanimously with the Court of Appeal ruling there was a real risk of... Oh, I said that. He pointed to crucial evidence from the UN's Refugee Agency, which highlighted the failure of a similar deportation agreement between Israel and Rwanda. Not the first time this has been done, by the way, in case you were concerned about, any other supremacist ethno-nat states yeeting people. All right. The ruling came the day after the sacked Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, released an incendiary letter accusing the PM of breaking an agreement to insert clauses into UK law that would have, quote, blocked off legal challenges under the European Convention on Human Rights and the Human Rights Act. I love making agreements which say that I would block off legal challenges under the European Convention on Human Rights and the Human Rights Act. That's how you know I'm feeling normal that day. It's when I'm like, what's up, man? You promised you would keep us from being affected by the Human Rights Act. And yet here I am being affected by it. What happened? You know? Always saying this. Braverman said Sunak had no credible plan B and added, if we lose in the Supreme Court, an outcome I have consistently argued we must be prepared for, you will have wasted a year and an act of parliament only to arrive back at square one. I have to insist again how insane this is. This was not just an offhand statement. There are now conservative leaders arguing over their ineffectiveness in blocking Human Rights Act impositions and sending brown people to Rwanda. This was something that they were like actually putting forward political capital towards. Like they are working on this, you know? Insane. Conservatives want to take us out of the ECHR, and I call them demons too. I'm not being selective there. So this means it's not law yet? No, it's been struck down. The Home Secretary, James Cleverly, said, our partnership with Rwanda while bold and ambitious, is just one part of a vehicle of measures to stop the boats and tackle illegal migration. Reid said the legal test in the case was whether there was substantial grounds for believing asylum seekers sent to Rwanda would be at real risk of being sent back to the countries they came from, where they could face ill treatment. Again, the real reason that they want these people to be sent to Rwanda is because if human rights abuses take place in Rwanda, which they will, it's not on the UK. I mean, it is on the UK, but that would be the perception, you know? Basically, they just want these people to disappear. If they hold asylum seekers in the UK, human rights abuses that take place against them will be noticed, documented, and held against the UK, against the Tories. Whereas if they're sent to Rwanda, you know? The Conservatives have literally nothing to campaign on except immigration, and they have failed in literally everything. Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing. How many immigrants are you guys even getting? UK yearly asylum seekers, because this is asylum seekers we're talking about. There were 75,340 asylum applications in the UK in the year ending September 2023. That's it? 75,000. For your whole ass country. Is that a lot? Not really. Send them to Rwanda? And these are just asylum applications. At this point, do you think the Tories are legitimate fascists? Oh, no. Yeah, 100%. The Tories are legitimate fascists, but the political, the state of affairs in the UK are very different. And I don't think that people in the UK are quite as responsive to militant, fascist hysteria the same way that Americans are. I think that people in the UK will stand by and enable and do horrible, miserable, wretched things to their fellow man, but I don't think, there's too much of a class element. I think the main thing keeping the Tories back is they can't do populism very well. We saw this with Brexit, where it took everything they had to clear that number, and after that it immediately withered away. The right wing in the UK is inextricably tied to upper class. What was Rishi Sunak the person who was interviewed and he basically said I don't have any poor friends? Was he the person who said that? The people, yes, he was. Yeah. The people who rep the Tories and conservatism in the UK are all incredibly stiff-lipped upper-class snobs with a lot of money and a lot of very close-knit political ties. They don't have the kind of down-to-earth, authentic populism that people like Donald Trump ostensibly represent, you know? Donald Trump absolutely is a rich boy, billionaire, New York, whatever, but he doesn't act the way that fucking Tories act, you know? Donald Trump wouldn't wear a fucking top hat. We don't call our judges lords, and we don't have close relations with our monarchs, you know? It wasn't just poor friends. He said working class friends. Yeah. I really think the Tories are just bad at populism. That's the thing that's keeping you guys from your own V for Vendetta universe, you know? You don't have somebody... Because wouldn't it just be, embarrassing for your Tories to get in front of a microphone and scream bloody murder the way that, the fucking Chancellor what's-his-name did in V for Vendetta? You know what I mean? You would have to have somebody animated, somebody who could, reach out to the very large number of poor people in your dying country and seize their hearts with, fear and so on. But I don't think you have that, you know? So thank God for British people being emotionally repressed, and fraught with internal turmoil that they're socially, disallowed from expressing. This is probably also what kept Japan from going fascist after our occupation in World War II. They're also too opposed to making a public fuss to really do the proper fascism screaming bit, you know? So that's nice, at least. The best they can do is Boris Johnson. Yeah, and even Boris Johnson was way too interested in being polite and affable. And hey, he was. I know what you're thinking. By British standards, he wasn't. But by Trump standards, by American standards, yes. Even Boris Johnson with his silly hair comes across as a kind of, you know, Doctor Who silly man with, he's affable, you know. It's by our standards still very much comes across a British leader. So yeah, whatever. Anyway, there was another thing I'm tacking on to this, okay? Yeah, Nigel Farage. And what's his name? What's the name of that guy? Not Nigel Farage. He's the guy whose big thing is like Muslims entering the UK. He got arrested a few times. He was a big name, but he's not that relevant these days. Tommy Robertson, I think. Yeah, Robinson. Yeah, not Robertson. Robinson. Yeah. That guy. That guy could do your full-on fascism bit. People like that, if the UK ever falls to fascism, it'll be because of people like that. People who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty and get a little bit more working class with their rhetoric. Because the Tories on their own just can't do it. You're too stiff. You're too stiff. Got a stick up your ass. Anyway, believe it or not, everything that I've said thus far was actually the precursor to what I consider to be the more insane story coming out of the UK right now. Okay? So this is actually really sad. As somebody who spends a lot of time online, this is actually really sad. Okay? This just happened, by the way. Fury grows over Tory visa rules where only the rich dare fall in love. Families fear that James Cleverly's proposals, which more than double the earnings threshold, could force separation and exile. How afraid are the Tories of immigration? Well, James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, announced last week that a British citizen who wants to sponsor their foreign spouse to live with them in the UK will need to earn at least £38.7 thousand a year to qualify for a family visa application. Unambiguous, straightforward, you cannot fall in love and bring someone here unless you already make like at least a middle-class income. I think this just cuts out like 50% of the population. Maybe even more. Yeah. Median annual pre-tax salary, 38,000 UK weekly wage median. Yeah, okay, yeah. So only about half the population now has the ability to love someone from another country and bring them here. This is insanely cruel. This is it's purely just, we don't want anyone coming here unless you have the money to support them. Like it's that simple. It's just like, unless you have the money, we do not want poor foreigners coming in here. You can only do this if you have the money to front it. The changes are expected to cut the number of family visas by about 10,000, adding to the thousands of, quote, Skype families, God, that's sad, who have already been separated by the previous rules where the British partner needed to earn an £18,600 salary. So they already have like a wage or a limit here. They've just more than doubled it. Now, I could be wrong here because I haven't examined the process myself, but my understanding is that while getting an immigrant to the United States is not easy by any means, I'm pretty sure we don't literally have like you need to make this much money prerequisite. Like money helps the process, but I'm pretty sure we don't have like literally a threshold that you have to meet before you can bring another person in. I could be wrong on that. The wage limit is higher than the average wage in Scotland already. I'm pretty sure that if you got rid of London, like if you did not count London, for all parts of the UK combined that don't include London, a 38.7k pound a year limit would cut out like 70% of people, you know? Campaign group Reunite Families UK said that hundreds of people joined it last week after the announcement. That would mean only about a quarter of British people would earn enough to sponsor. A quarter? Only a quarter would be able to... Was I looking at household income beforehand, not personal income? Sorry, no asylum seekers off to Rwanda with you. No immigrants, shoot down the boats. Oh, you love a person from out of the country? Nope, sorry. You can't afford love. Everyone feels the rug has been pulled from under their feet, said Jane Yilmaz, the co-founder of the group. They've dropped this bombshell just before Christmas, and it's devastating for our families. We've got people who are separated because they couldn't reach the 18.6 K-pound threshold. There's no way those families are going to reach the new target. We've got loads of members who are exiled, who have always lived in hope they might be able to come back to their own country. The government harps on about family values and how important the family unit is, and then they do this. Jesus. Andrea Dumitrak, co-CEO at the 3 Million, representing EU citizens in the UK, said the rise was, quote, a blatant attack on families across the country, and that ministers should scrap it. Our British friends living in the EU will struggle to come back to the UK, with many having to choose between their own families abroad and a parent needing care in the UK. This is like, it's not even like immigrants. It's just like destroying families where part of them is out. Roughly the same as the old UK limitation. And gotcha, okay. If you're sponsoring a family member for a visa. Gotcha. I think there are ways to get in immigrants that are through different processes, though, because I had a friend who got in here off of basically nothing. It just took some time. Conservative commentators and politicians have also voiced concerns, including Lord Barwell, Theresa May's former chief of staff, who said it was morally wrong and unconservative to say that only the wealthiest can fall in love, marry someone, then bring them to the UK. Again, unironically, this is why the Tories have not been able to build a legitimate base of fascism, because you cannot do fascism when all of your loudest conservatives are like Oxford, Princeton, stiff, upper-lipped snobs who call each other lords, and the main reason they know each other is because they're all wealthy. There is no populist element to your conservatism. It is so elitist and snobbish. It's insane. They already are borderline fascist. Oh, ideologically, the Tories are absolutely fascist, 100%. But you can't build a fascist movement because you can't even fake the populism necessary. You know? You're too snobby. Look at what Trump did. Trump electrified fascism in the United States by being the least snobby human being alive. Trump is incredibly unpretentious in his presentation. No one would ever look at Trump and think, oh yeah, this is a guy who likes monocles, top hats, and caviar or whatever. Yeah, Mr. Steak with ketchup. He's in mannerisms, at least, he's completely down to earth. He has a golden toilet. Yeah, no Tory would have a golden toilet. Trump has money, he has no class. Yes, exactly. This is something that distinguishes the wealthy in America from the wealthy elsewhere. American wealth doesn't really have class to it. Our wealthiest people are like, there are old money wealthy people, there are people who made their money via like crypto, or people who made it through like social media or whatever. But our wealthiest people tend to dress down. We don't have much in the way of authentic class snobbery. We have classism along wealth lines, but we don't have a very strong culture associated with like veneration of the aesthetics of snobbery and wealth, if that makes any sense, you know? The closest we have to it is like gaudy Trump shit, you know, like golden toilets, but even that isn't really meant to be classy. It's just meant to be wealthy. We're a lot more straightforward. And a lot of this has to do with our rejection of the aesthetics associated with the British royalty and aristocracy. We still have our money, but, you know, we don't call each other lord. Old money East Coast wasps. Yeah, but that's the funny thing, Tempest. Everyone hates them. Like, old money East Coast wasps are a thing, but publicly signaling allegiance to them will lose you popularity on both the left and the right. You know what I mean? Like, on the right, politicians try to do the whole George W. Bush thing. Like, George W. Bush was a wealthy, highly educated man who, like, bought a ranch and pretended to be a cowboy and fucking to win his election. You know what I mean? Like, we're very populist leaning, at least in our aesthetics here in this country, you know? Like one of the things that lost why am I blanking on his name? The climate change guy, Al Gore. The election was that Al Gore, John Kerry as well, came off as relatively elitist compared to George W. Bush, which probably lost them a chunk of the populist vote. Now, how elitist do John Kerry and Al Gore come across? Not very. They just wear suits, really. Not very. Kerry was a veteran, you know? Al Gore is just a guy. He's just a guy. He's a college professor that somebody dressed up, you know? He doesn't come across as snobby, but, you know, he doesn't have that, like, you know, old town, down home, on the range American riz that people go for. And now what are we dealing with, right? Hillary Clinton is associated with that East Coast old money WASP snobbery, and it killed her. Donald Trump also is in reality, but doesn't act like it, so, you know. And now we have Donald Trump, the most fucking down-to-earth, ultra-wealthy person, and Joe Biden, who does not come across as even remotely elitist. He constantly talks in this super folksy, highly affable grandpa voice. Again, I'm saying all of this to indicate how far away we are from the rhetoric of, like, how British leaders tend to talk and act. Way more upper class, way more snobbish, and it hurts your populism, you know? I mean, the closest thing you had to, like, a populist sounding guy in like power or adjacent to power, it's probably Corbyn, you know? That didn't work out, unfortunately. So speaking of Clinton, yeah, Clinton. Clinton. I mean, the original Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton also did the whole down home folksy blah blah. So did George Bush Sr. So when was the last time we had an American president who, like, reveled in the aesthetic of being a member of the cultural elite? When was the last time an American president wore a top hat? Kennedy? Kennedy dressed down a lot. Woodrow Wilson? Maybe. Obama, arguably? I actually think you could make a case for Obama representing a kind of elitism, but it's not the class snobbish elitism I'm referring to. More of a, like, highly affable, like, upper crust academic elitism that he, you know, to an extent authentically repped, but it wasn't like a top hat kind of elitism. It was like, you know, a sweater, you know, over a dress shirt kind of elitism, I guess. But no, I agree. I agree. FDR wore a lot of top hats. I don't think FDR came across as particularly snobbish, though I suppose I could be wrong. Woodrow Wilson was the one that I would immediately go to. I'm pretty sure JFK did wear a top hat, though. Yeah, he did. This was during the era where it still was expected for men to wear top hats in evening wear. Though he didn't wear it that much, only a few times, I think. Weird. It does look weird. It does look weird. The Kennedys' budget was scrutinized, especially their wardrobe. You were right when they say they dressed down. You can see it here too. He's wearing a one button. I assume this is like a black tie coat. But what is this, striped pants? And he's wearing it with a tie rather than like a bow tie. But he's wearing the top hat. This is an effort to dress down evening wear, I think. Tailcoat, yeah, thank you. Would you wear a top hat? Absolutely not. All right. I think I've made my point. I forget what the point was. The point is that the UK is dying. That still looks upper class, no chance. Yeah, and it is. But it is an effort to dress down, you know. It is an effort to dress down appearance compared to, like, typical evening wear of the era. Like, I can look up 1960s men's evening wear, and you can see, there we go. Art from the period. The Gentleman Gazette. Did I miss Fashion Monday? No, but I was making a point about British snobbery. Anyway, that's politics. Politics. Yes. We're over time, which means that I've got to go, but I'm going to read super chats so that they don't disappear into the void. Vontux the $5. Best guess if Trump wins, successful dictatorship or no? No idea. A lot of chaos no matter what, though. Pilger Sam Cedar, thank you for the $10. Really appreciate that. The issue with theory is that a lot of people who read theory develop a holier-than-thou mentality, and they lack the ability to practically apply anything they learn to reality. Yes, I agree. 100%. Yeah. They read it like dogma, rather than like an instructive, I guess, text on how to analyze and interpret. Helika Itsuya, VTuber and streamer. That's a full name. Thank you for the 1,000 yen. Hi, sorry if off topic. Viewer from Japan here, catching the live stream for the first time. Oh, hey! Just wanted to drop in and say I love your content, especially when you teach me about my own country. Definitely not an expert on Japan, but I appreciate that very much. Thank you. That's awesome. Bunslaya, thank you for the 2 Canadian. Archer Madsen, thank you for the 8 Australian. Really appreciate that. I don't know anything about that. Ivory Dawn, thank you for the $10. My mom was radicalized by the Reagan admin and helped me realize that boycott mindset is the same reason leftists think not voting will change the system. Yeah, it is very funny to me that it seems to me like a majority of online leftists simultaneously believe that not voting will change the system, and also that not buying will change. Like, they seem to believe that being like a hikikomori is actually the highest form of political activism. I don't know. Stupid. Still alive, thanks to the $5. I had my fill of Zelda's open world style in Tears of the Kingdom. I didn't really play Breath of the Wild that much. I think that I'm done with it. I'm so done with open worlds, man. It's just imagine any other media where it's like, okay, we want everyone to be able to consume this book for like 7 months. So what we'll do is make it 10,000 pages long, and we'll make it so that paragraphs are separated by multiple pages that you have to pull through. Everything will take forever. A lot of the content will be copy-pasted. Nothing will be like uniquely created except for a few specific set pieces. And a ton of our development time is just going to go towards like the graphics and rendering tech necessary to manage such a big open world that won't actually improve the gameplay experience. So tired of it. Bet, thank you for the 110 try. You are the first person I've ever seen who has a 5-year anniversary balloon next their thing. You've been here for a long while, huh? Not defending unorganized boycotts, but please read the article from the Boston Globe about the $11 billion loss in the value of Starbucks. I think you misreported the boycott. That really bugs me. I can give it a look, but I mean, we're talking about pretty reasonable stock price fluctuations. By boycott, do you mean like the strikes? Are boycotts behind Starbucks losing $11 billion in market value? I don't even know if we should care about the loss. Again, this is all within variance for a big company. I don't know if I agree with this. This is unusual. This is different. Boycotts have connected Starbucks with an international cause. I mean, this doesn't have much in the way of analysis. I don't think I agree with this. I guess I'm open to see how things go in the future, you know? Still alive with the $5. Yeah, you shouldn't eat before bed. Probably don't eat like within 2 hours of going to bed. It's much better for you. Chicken Warrior, thank you for the $10. Really appreciate that. The Constitution does give Congress the right to regulate the Supreme Court in just about any way they want. Yeah, Congress can regulate the Supreme Court, but not their jurisprudence. Like, there's no check on the rulings they make, only on the structure of the court itself. Carly Isn't Goth, thank you for the $2. What do I think of theory like bell hooks? I would need a more specific question. Benjamin Gilbert Leaf, thank you for the incredibly kind $50 donation. I really appreciate that. Please explain the Brianna Wu tweet. I've been racking my brain trying to figure it out. Nice try, but donating is not any more likely to make me look at tweets at the end of stream than just posting it in chat. I ignored it in chat. I'll ignore it in donos. That's called being principled. Bell Hooks is a feminist writer. I know, but like theory as in like feminist theory broadly or Bell Hooks theory specifically? Because I haven't read Bell Hooks. I don't really know. Yeah, it's called being principled. All right. I'm going to go eat some food because I'm a hungry boy. In the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Dylan Burns TV. Heard this guy is doing stuff, you know? I love it when people do stuff. Baba Booey. That is true. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow.